Hello and welcome back to the Goat Cave podcast. Today's guest is one of the most widely known filmmakers in BMX. Not only that, but an incredible rider. He is responsible for some of the biggest projects for full-length videos that have released in recent years, including On Some Shit's Football, Volumes The Finer Things, and most recently, Ride BMX's Headlights. He has even competed as a filmer on X Games Real BMX Street alongside the one and only DeMarcus Paul. Now let's talk riding. His riding has always been so creative and has landed him some awesome sponsors over the year, like Proper, Volume, and currently repping Sunday. He is always coming up with new ideas for tricks that no one could really think of, and then taking it a step further and thinking about how it will look best on camera. BMX has taken him so far, all with the help of his Sprinter van that he built into a tiny home on wheels. I'm so excited to nerd out on cameras, filming, van life, and so much more with Mike Mastroni. Mike, how are you?
Great, man. Hell of an intro. How are you doing?
Wonderful, man. I was actually out riding today. So, up here in Canada, it's really difficult to get out in the winter. So, lucky enough to get a barn session in.
Dude, I feel you, man. Here we just bundle up and go ride. And like last night I went and rode and it was like 25 degrees, which is actually pretty warm for January here in Salt Lake. And just kind of like layer up, go ride a parking garage and pretend like it's fun for a little while.
Yeah, definitely. Only a few hours and I was out. I was like, nope, this is over with, man.
Yep.
Alrighty, so you've actually listened to the show maybe once or twice before, so you might know this, but the way that we start this off is that we go all the way back to when you first started riding. So how'd you get started, Mike?
I think kind of like any kid, just kind of had like a little 16-inch bike and just kind of like jumping around my yard. I think I'd probably seen I saw some mountain bike race on TV. It was it was actually like a women's mountain bike race, and like they were just like ripping trails through the woods and like jumping off little logs and stuff. And it was like a televised like event. And so I was probably like, I don't know, like first grade, something like that, second grade. And I didn't even know like what BMX was. And then I just knew I liked jumping this little bike around. And so my school library, like I went to school that year, and my school library had actually stocked BMX Plus magazine. And so I just remember seeing that and like seeing the cover, and I was just like, fucking, oh, this is like something that people do. I had no idea. So yeah, that's kind of how I got into riding. I think ever since I saw that magazine, I was pretty much just hooked and just started nerding out on trying to consume as much BMX as I could, like whether it be on TV or magazines or whatever.
Dude, what school did you go to that had magazines, like BMX magazines? That's incredible.
Dude, yeah. I mean, so I'm from this really small town in Connecticut called Kent. And it was just, I don't know what it was. I'm sure like BMX Plus, like whatever publisher that was, probably had, probably some other titles that my school library had too. But for whatever reason, I just gravitated towards that one. And yeah, I don't know. It's crazy that they even stocked it. I'm sure I probably would have found out about it somehow, but that's just, I like have this vivid memory of just seeing this cover. I want to even say it was like Jay Miron or something on the cover, and I was just like on Vert doing like a look back or something like that, and I was just like, yeah, that's it right there.
Dude, that's so wild. So you see this magazine and you kind of get into BMX through that way. What ends up being the first BMX bike that you own?
So I think I had I had that little 16-inch, and I was like jumping around my yard quite a bit, and my neighbors would like make little jumps for me and stuff like that. They were like way older. But then so I think my dad saw that I really liked it, and I think he took me to a bike shop, and I think I had it was like a dyno, like a race bike. I knew it was a race bike because I remember it having the brakes like up top, like on the seat stays. And I remember like roasting through that bike pretty quick. Like I remember it was just shit. Like I think I bent the front wheel, and like it was like pretty quick. And then there was like this, there are like these kids in my town that like, I guess you'd call them like towny kind of kids, like the type of kids that would like hang out in front of the market and like smoke cigarettes and shit. Like they're way older. And I remember like driving by with my mom, and I saw one of them like popping a wheelie on this, like, it was probably like a GT Performer, and it had like some dope like black mag wheels on it and shit. And so I was like, I think once my dyno went to shit, which was pretty quick, I think I remember like going over to this kid's house because I knew where he lived, and I just like knocked on his door and I was like, hey, I'll give you like $50 for your bike or something like that. And I think he ended up, like, he never rode it anyway. He was just like some like hood kid. And then yeah, he was just like, okay, sure, take it. Like, so I think I had this like, it was, but I remember like that dyno, and then I remember that like it was like a chrome like GT Performer with like black mag wheels with like a standing platform up on the top tube and stuff. It was like fucking cool.
Dude, that's so sweet. You know, those younger ages where you could just buy a BMX bike for $50 and just like, you know, make it through with it. It was the world, right? Like, I cared about my $50 BMX bike the same amount that I care about my fucking $2,500 BMX bike. You know, it's wild.
Yeah, and I think I at that point like I remember too, like the video store in my town. I mean, you know, back before like Redbox and shit, they're like video stores, and they had Rad. So I remember seeing Rad, and I even at that time, you know, obviously this is still like way before. This is before like this is probably like 1998 or 99 or somewhere in there, and like, you know, obviously Rad is like an 80s movie, but I think like seeing Rad and then like being able to have the bike with the mag wheels and shit was like, I was like, dude, I'm like in the movie. Like I was like so stoked when I was a little kid.
Dude, I could totally see that. You know, it's definitely Rad is one of those things that's like, you know, obviously so synonymous with BMX from every age. Everybody knows about Rad, you know?
Yeah, it's just kind of timeless, and it's like other people that couldn't give a fuck less about BMX like could see Rad and like think it was cool, you know.
Yeah, so you know, back in those days, who were a lot of the riders that you looked up to when you were first kind of getting into tricks and you know, I guess riding in general?
I think I mean, from the beginning, is probably just like any kid. It was probably like Mira Nyquist, like whatever you could kind of digest off of like television. And yeah, really whoever was in X Games. And I think through like reading the magazines and stuff, like, you know, you'd like flip in the back and there'd be like the dance comp, black and white section. And then there were like Trend, I think, would always have like a page or two ad in there. So there was always like stuff. So I think through like going to like Trend.com like that, because Trend was like the original Empire. So I think through that I found out about like T1, and then like Joe and Taj, and like that was probably like right around the time T1 was starting. So early on, I think once it was like Mira and Nyquist and stuff early on, and then once I kind of found out about T1 and like yeah, first like it was like Wessel and Joe and Taj and all those dudes, and I mean like fuck, probably even like Elf. But yeah, it was like pretty much from that point on, I was like, I'm getting dreadlocks, and that's what's going on.
That's so cool, man. It's always interesting to, you know, talk to people who looked up to these big time legends, you know, and they end up actually getting to meet these people and, you know, become kind of close with some of these people.
Oh yeah, dude, absolutely. Like, I remember going to like the first time. So like, I think, you know, at that point I had like gone to Woodward maybe once or twice, or, you know, or maybe that was like that year I found out about like Trend and Joe and Taj and stuff. I went to Woodward and like literally drove in and like got in the cabin and stuff. And one of the first people I saw was Nate Wessel. And I vividly remember going up to him and being like, "Hey, are you Nate Weasel?" But I was like, he was just like my favorite, or one of my favorite riders at the time, and it was just like such a trip to just pull up at Woodward and just like, oh, there he is right there. Like this must be where all the pros live.
Yeah, it's got to be weird for pros some days, you know, just to have these younger kids that look so much up to them, because in the BMX world, right, like big time pros are celebrities to kids, and definitely like even to me, you know, when I get to sit down with somebody like Stu or yourself even, you know, it's a big thing for me. So I don't know, I just feel like sometimes I bet you BMX guys got to feel like a celebrity.
Yeah, I mean, at a place like Woodward, which is, you know, it's almost like a small town, or you know, it kind of is like, yeah, it must definitely feel like that for someone like Nate or Joe or Taj at the time.
Yeah, so going back on Rad there, you know, you checked out Rad and obviously you love the movie, and do you think that had any play in how you kind of wanted to start getting into BMX filming, or was that kind of more down the line when you got into watching like full length videos and whatnot?
Yeah, I think that was probably more down the line. So I think my first like real BMX video like I think I had graduated from the GT, and I think I had bought like a Hoffman Condor like frame set or something. It was like a frame fork stem or something like that, probably out of one of the magazines. And I think with that, my parents bought me Road Fools 2 for Christmas, and that was like seeing that, and then like right around that same time, it was like Road Fools 2, Etnies Forward, and Criminal Mischief, and those were, I mean, I feel like that's kind of everybody's, like those last two are kind of like everybody's favorite videos, but yeah, those had like a huge impact on me, and like around that same time too, I think like, so there were like a bunch of little like my friends in my town that like none of them rode BMX, but they all like skated and stuff. So I think like I found out about like all the CKY videos and stuff like that. And those like, so it's kind of like a combination of like those two things. I was like, well, fuck, I got to get a video camera. And so like those early years, like 2002, 3, 4, like I think it was just like filming, like there was always like a camera around. I don't remember. I think I had one at one point, like a little mini DV, like dad cam type of thing. But yeah, like I would film with my friend Charlie at the skate park, and we would kind of do more like serious, like quote unquote, like serious BMX shit at the skate park, and we filmed a little video. And then with my skater friends, like we would just film dumb shit, like sleeping over to each other's houses and like fucking waking people up, like dumping like raisins on your head, or just like stuff like that, like just fucking around, like sledding, like little ghetto snowboarding, like just getting hurt, doing shopping carts, like stuff like that. Like we're just little like kids that were bored, like throwing stuff at cars and like that type of shit. So I think like there's just always a camera around, and that's kind of how I got into it. But I don't think I ever like took it really seriously until like way later, like probably like 2007 or 8 or somewhere in there.
Yeah, so you had mentioned that you really liked the CKY videos, and CKY, man, those videos were the fucking best. I'm not that old, I'm only 24, but growing up, my dad, he's a skater, so he fucking,
yeah.
dude, he showed me those from like so young, like that was kind of what I grew up on, was CKY, Viva La Bam, Jackass, that kind of stuff. I love those videos, and I think the best part about it is just that it's not really supposed to be super serious. Like it's all about just the fun and how wild they are as a crew,
Yeah, it would be like, I mean, I've watched like a lot of interviews with like Bam and all those dudes, and it's like he kind of hit on something early on that I think people nowadays, like the fucking quick like short attention span stuff, like it would be like this epic skate section to like some like hymn song or something, and then it would just like cut to like some dude with his pants down at a urinal, like just to the floor, and then like, or like some dude taking a shit. It would just like, there was stuff for people who were into skating and like that type of lifestyle like me, and then there was like stuff for people that couldn't give a fuck about skating either. So it was just like this like perfect mix of stuff that was kind of just like captivating in its own way,
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's something that's extremely hard to replicate nowadays because, the second that you try and do something similar to that, people are going to call it out instantly. But it's such a great formula, like he definitely figured it out when he was a lot younger, because they really had it going for them. They were selling a lot of copies of those videos.
Dude, yeah, like everybody, I'm pretty sure, myself and my friends included, I think everybody just wanted to like be those dudes. Like, oh, like we could just fuck around and film it and like break things and like piss people off. Like that's, it's like when you're a little kid, that's like the best, right?
Dude, absolutely. I remember one of the clips that I can remember so vividly from CKY is them with a football in the middle of the street, like just trying to play football.
The Russian football, and then fucking Deco's just like, well, no, like he's just making up. I'm pretty sure he's not even saying anything. He's just like pretending like he's speaking Russian. It's fucking so good.
Yeah, dude. Brandon DiCamillo is a fucking genius. That dude is, he's brilliant.
Yeah. I was thinking about this today, like all that stuff, like I still think it's hilarious. Like I would still watch it today. I sometimes I try to show people, like my friend John, I remember trying to show him like some CKY, and I could just tell that he maybe didn't get it like as much as I would have at that age, or whatever. Like, but the one thing I thought about the other day with it, I'm like, yeah, it doesn't really age well. Like as far as like political correctness and shit, like you just couldn't do it now. Like a lot of the stuff they did and the stuff they said is just like, yeah, that was pretty much like a time and place thing. You know, you definitely couldn't do that in 2020 and not have a bunch of people like mad at you.
Oh my God, dude. That's the thing. I guess they did really hit the nail on the head, right? They managed to get like such a great formula at the perfect time. Like,
Yeah.
you imagine if that didn't happen 20 years ago and it came out now, like half the people that would have liked that probably wouldn't be into it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, just right place, right time, right audience. Just, you know, like, yeah, just that. Yeah, those are great videos.
Yeah, exactly. Moving on here though, you know, when you after a couple of years of riding, you ended up actually getting hooked up through Proper. So how did that come along?
Yeah, so it was probably like 2008 or somewhere in there. Like, I think I just bought like I finally was just like, okay, like I was probably at the time I was probably really inspired by like Mutiny and like V Club and all the Shook videos and stuff, and I bought a video camera and like yeah, no, there were like a bunch of dudes where I lived, like Sealy and this other dude, like Jeff Martin, and just some other people around that were like filming that were kind of like Jeff Martin was on Peg Leg and Sealy was on like Man Made and probably even Sunday at that point. But just kind of like there's like some other kids that like lived close to me that were getting hooked up and filming and stuff. And I was like, well, fuck, I want to do that. It looks cool. And so yeah, I bought a video camera and just kind of was making like self-filmed videos, and it was like a DVX, Panasonic DVX 100A. I still have it, actually. It's right here. This is literally like, I think I bought this on eBay for like $1,600, which at the time was, you know, that was probably all the money I had was to buy this camera. And like, just, yeah, I think I did the thing you're not supposed to do. Like you know, you like quit your job, but when you quit your job, you're supposed to like have money. I think I just saved up enough money to buy the camera, and then I just quit my job and was just doing that for about a year. And yeah, I would just post them on my Vimeo page, and I just wanted to like make videos. But the thing about like my town is there was just nobody that rode or really understood how to film like the way I wanted to film. So I just kind of like did it all by myself, and you know, it was just kind of like a weirdly like a different way to go about it, but it was like more satisfying in a way, if that makes sense. So I was just doing that and posted some videos on my Vimeo, and at the time, like the Come Up website was, you know, kind of popping off, and like it was just kind of like the right time. And then yeah, Proper ended up hitting me up and kind of just sent me a bike, and that kind of just like went from there. And then that sort of stemmed into like Adam hitting me up and starting to work on like going down to the city to hang out with him. You know, started to like kind of connect with some dudes in my area. Like I actually met Sealy through like I would just drive. I put any dime I had, I would just put that into gas in the van, and I would just drive around all these towns like in northwest corner of like Connecticut, and just kind of just looking for like anything to ride. And one time I drove up to Pittsfield, Massachusetts, which is like where Jake lives. And I didn't even know, but I just saw this like group of BMX riders riding, and one of them was Sealy, and that's how I met Jake Sealy. Was just like riding around looking for spots, and yeah, so I just kind of started to like meet you know, other like riders in my area. I met Platt the same way, Alex Platt, like just kind of like riding around. So yeah, just kind of like started doing that, and yeah, that's kind of sort of how all that came about, I guess.
Dude, that's so cool that you started out with a DVX. So when I got into filming, it was a Canon GL1 that I got first, and then my second tape camera that I would use to complete my first DVD was a DVX, and it's still on my wall to this day.
Hell yeah. Dude, I also had a GL1, actually. I kind of skipped that. So I had a GL1, and it only lasted like probably 3, 4, maybe 5 filming sessions. It had a really bad glitch, like something would happen where the whole like right side of the frame would just get all pixelated. And then at one point I had this shitty tripod, and I was like trying to film something, and it was really windy, and the camera just completely blew over and just like fucking broke it. And I sent it off to get repaired, and the dude, it was basically going to be more than I paid for the camera to get it fixed. And I was just like, fuck that. So I just like bought a DVX instead.
Dude, the DVX is such an underrated camera in my mind. You know, I think a lot of people go straight for the VX, like the Sony VX. But
Yeah.
that fucking Panasonic DVX was such a tank, and it still turns on to this fucking day. Like,
Yeah. Mine still turns on too. I'm pretty sure mine has that same glitch I was just talking about with the. I think the heads are just dirty or whatever with the. I don't even fucking fuck around with tapes anymore. But yeah, like that was the tape thing is pretty much why I stopped using it.
yeah, for me, it was definitely kind of similar, right? I was having a lot of issues with importing and capturing my footage from my DVX. You know, always having issues with the FireWire and whatnot. So I ended up going with a HVX, which I actually know that you use an HVX and an HPX, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Those two and some Super 8 and I mean shit, anything. Sometimes some random DSLR shit if like our friend is filming or whatever. But yeah, mostly just those two cameras.
Nice, man. So what was the decision for you to move up to the HVX and the HPX? Was it kind of like, did you have anything in between the DVX, or did you just go right up a notch with it?
Right up, and it took a long time too. So I've actually never owned a VX. I don't really get it. I mean, I get it. Like, I mean, some of my favorite filmers are like, VX enthusiasts and stuff. But yeah, for me, I always like saw the Panasonic as like, it's just a better camera. Like there's really just, there's not really any two ways about it. But I think I only upgraded to HD because of getting the job at Volume, which was like way later down the line. But yeah, I mean, with the DVX, like I did all my self film projects on that. I did OSS football was, I think we had like 3 DVXs at that time. Like I had one, Adam had one, and this other kid, Chris Z, had one. And so between us 3, like that was like OSS football was DVXs, and then Denver Nugs was also DVXs. And then I think even some of like Ruin Your Whole Summer, that was kind of around the time that I like started working with Volume and stuff. So I think I had some footage on a DVX, and that all went to that video. And then I had to like just start over HD with for Volume, and it wasn't even an HVX I had at first. I think I had an HMC 150, and that camera was cool. But I mean, I don't know, all the Panasonic cameras are pretty similar.
Yeah, definitely. I'm so glad to hear that you actually kind of had the same agreement as me, where I love, the VX. It's a great camera. There's a lot of history behind it, but I have no idea why people gravitate to it so much and so solely to that camera. Everybody treats that camera like it's a god of a religion, and I just don't get it. Like, I like the camera. It does a lot of great stuff, but there's so many other cameras out there, man.
Yeah, I think it's just because of the fisheye, and it's like that is obviously like something I will say is that, there's probably still no comparison really to the VX fisheye. I mean, the Extreme, which is like what I use, is it's the best HD alternative, but I don't know. The VX shit's funny to me, man. It's like there's a reason why kind of everybody like moved on from it, but there's also like a reason why it looked good in the first place, and it was because it was in the hands of like skate filmers who fucking knew what they were doing. Like I think like if you want to use a VX today, like that's great, like cool, but like learn how to color correct, like learn how to like manipulate your footage in post so it looks good. Like don't just put it out raw and be like fucking yeah, like we don't care. Like that's when it looks bad to me. Like when it looks good when people like for instance, like all the Act Like You Know videos, those are fucking great. Even like Act Like You Know, Still Here, and I think there's one other one, but those are all like VX. Like I don't know if they're like VX 1000, they might be like 2100 or 2000, but it's like those dudes like know how to like color correct, they know how to make their stuff look good, and it's like you're not watching the video like fuck this is VX. Like like when I see VX stuff now, I'm like like it better be good writing or it better be film good, because if not, I'm like turning that shit off.
Yeah, completely fair, man. And my thing too is like, let's be real here. If Beagle has stopped using a VX, I think it might be time to move on, guys. Like Beagle. Yeah.
There's other stuff. Like, I mean, I don't know. There's this new like Dane Berman part. I mean, I don't know if like how many of the listeners like follow skating that closely or whatever, but there's a new Dane Berman part that's all VX and it's super good. It just depends on how it's filmed. It depends on how you edit, and it depends on like it's just all. Every camera is the best camera as long. It just depends on the hands that it's in. I guess, if that makes any sense.
No, that's some great, that's some great advice, actually, that every camera is the best camera in the right hands. That makes a lot of sense, because for me, when I first got started, right, I had all these crappy cameras and I was just trying to figure them out. And I still, to this day, kind of barely know what I'm doing, like I know what I'm doing when it comes to color correcting and whatnot, but yeah, I don't know. I'm like, I have a little bit of skill, but I'm not that great. So
I mean, hey, dude, I'm still learning. I'm pretty sure everyone's still learning. Like, I probably didn't. I still don't really understand. Like, if I had the money, I would just have all my shit color corrected by someone else, because I hate doing it. So it's like my colors are usually like I get to a point and then I just give up, because I'm just like, okay, like these are passable. I don't really, you know what I mean? Like, there's just so much to it.
yeah, there you go. Anyways, to go back on proper here. So, you were on proper for a little while and then you decided to make the switch to volume. So, what kind of happened there? What led you to switch over to volume, and, where did things go from there?
I think just at the time, like all my friends were, I mean, I think so by that was like 2010, maybe like early 2011. And at that point I think my riding had like changed a little bit. I think when I first got on proper, I was a little bit more like, I was riding street, but it was more like, I don't know. I think my favorite rider was at the time was probably like Randy Taylor or something. So I think I was probably like trying to just do like more basic stuff, like big ball ride 180s or like just stuff like that. And then, football, I kind of like went through this transition where I was like, I really wanted to do more like I think I got real stoked on Tate and what he was doing, and wanted to like kind of find more interesting things to do. And I was just kind of like finding my lane a little bit more, like as a person probably, and then also as a rider. And I was like, oh, I want to do like these things, and, not that like proper didn't fit that or anything, but I think it was like proper's like an English company, and these dudes are all super sick. Like, Alex Platt and I spent about 3 weeks over there, when I first got on, and like just nothing but love, from those dudes. And yeah, it was sick. Like they put us up for like, it was like 4 weeks. It was awesome. Like, if a team manager like puts you up for 4 weeks, like in his house, and like doesn't complain about it, like that's fucking rad, And then, but I think, so at that time I had like met Tate and, who else? Oh, like my friend, Maddie Long at the time was on volume. So I think it was like all these people. And then Adam and I had like moved to California as well. So I think it was just kind of like, okay, we're in California, like volume's in California, proper is in the UK. A couple of my closer friends ride for volume, and like specifically Tate, a dude who I really look up to a lot. So I think it kind of was like natural to sort of, try to get on that team. And I think I rode for volume for like at least a year and a half, or it was like something like that before I started filming for them.
Nice. Yeah, that's sick, man. So, what kind of led you to become their full-time filmer then? Because obviously at this point you had already started filming and whatnot. And, you must have already completed football by that time, right?
Yeah. So football came out in like, it was like, so we moved to California in like fall of 2010. And I think that's when football came out. So I think football had like just come out, and then Adam and I moved to California, and we lived in this house with like, I don't know. There's so many people just like coming and going. There's like, I think at the first incarnation of the house, it was like David Grant, Sean McIntosh, or Shitty as people will call him. I don't know. It was a trip, and there was just so many people like just staying. It was crazy. But wait, fuck, what was the question? I was just like thinking about that time. I was like, that's crazy.
Yeah, we'll get back to that question in a second. I just want to, touch on the fact that you actually lived with Adam 22, who, 10 years ago wasn't as big of a name as he is now. He's kind of grown into this almost household name, right? For anybody that's really into like rap music or even BMX, like we all know who he is.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know. Like I don't really, I don't know. I don't stay in contact with Adam really too much these days. So when I think about Adam, I kind of still think of him as like how it was back then, I guess. Like we were all just like a bunch of like dirtball dudes filming. And, he was the one who like kind of spearheaded, like, doing OSS football and like doing full length videos and stuff like that. So, and he kind of like brought me on as like his camera guy, I guess, so I don't know. I just kind of think of like those times when I think of Adam. I don't really like, I don't know. I'm not too too into like all the stuff these days, but I mean, like he's still a solid dude. Like, no matter what people say about him.
Yeah, definitely has made a like big name for himself, which is rad. You know, I really enjoy to see people in BMX become successful, right? Like a lot of pretty big BMX riders, you know, if they're successful, they bring in more people to what we're doing. So, you know,
Yeah,
stoked to see
absolutely.
that.
There's definitely an argument to be made there. I mean, like, like when we were kids, like we just gravitated to what was on TV and whatever. And it's like if that kid gets stoked on like whatever Adam's doing now with like hip hop and BMX and whatever, and then like that kid gets into BMX and discovers his own lane, like that's fucking cool. You know, I'm on board with that.
Fuck yeah. Anyways, we'll get back here to where we were. So let's talk about how you started filming for Volume. So, you know, you had rode for them for a little while. And then, you know, you actually became their full-time filmer. So what was their idea behind it? Did they have a lot of big projects they wanted to work on? Obviously, the Finer Things was to come out a few years after that. So
Yeah. I don't know. I think like I kind of just fell into it. I feel like I think the dude who was working there before me left or it didn't work out. And yeah, so I don't know. I mean, like I think it just kind of had like I was already, filming for like I was like the OSS filmer, so it's like I had a 15 passenger van and 2 cameras, and it was just kind of like, oh, I filmed like that was just like what I did. So I think like Brian Castillo kind of saw that, and I think Adam actually put in a bit of a word for me too, and I think he kind of put the idea in my ear like, oh, you should just be volume filmer. I'm like, yeah, fucking why not? I should. And so I think I went on. We did so in between. Joey Cobbs was kind of like he was the demolition team manager, and I remember calling him and being like, oh, like, how do I do this? Like, because it wasn't just the filmer. It was like I was like the team manager, and there was like some other kind of responsibilities with the job too. So I kind of like Joey kind of coached me through it a little bit, and I remember we did this Arizona trip, and so the team at the time was like Drew Hosselton, who was and still is one of my favorite riders. He was on. Brock Rayford had just got on, and who else? Fuck it. There was like a couple other people on that trip maybe, but we did this trip out to Arizona, and like Joey Cobbs was kind of like playing the TM role at the moment. And so I think we were in Arizona for like, I don't know, like a week or week and a half. And then out of that, we got this like Brock Rayford welcome video, and then like a Drew Haas video, and then like just some other stuff of a couple of the other guys for their projects. And yeah, I think like, so I just kind of like, so we went to Arizona for a week, came back with all this footage, and I think Brian saw that and he was just like, oh, fuck yeah. Like, you did all this stuff in like a week, like great, And then I think I did a couple other things. Like I did like a Connor Lotus like wheel promo for Demolition. So cause I was like the filmer for Demolition too. So it was kind of like like a 180 distro sort of job. And, so I think Brian saw that. He saw that I was motivated. He saw that I could like, kind of like turn stuff around pretty quick. And, he I think so it went from like me invoicing him for those videos to like he was kind of like, all right, come in, so we'll sit down and talk about like a full-time sort of thing.
hell yeah, man. So, first of all, you had mentioned that you were the team manager afterwards. So let's talk about what a team manager does. For anybody out there that doesn't really know, I think this is a good time to really explain what your duties were, if that makes sense.
I feel like my duties, I mean, at the time I probably thought I was like doing all that I should have been doing, but I think like nowadays, like somebody like a J Rowe or like, I don't even know, like, someone like that, either their duties are probably like a lot more than what mine were. But my basic duties were like, drive the van, film the clips, have spots for everybody, have kind of input on what to do with the team. And I think that's actually one of the first things I did with Volume. And like their Volume was kind of in a weird spot at that point. I think they had kind of like done really well off of like doing like some fixed gear bikes, but like the team was kind of all over the place. Like in my eyes, like they had like Tate and Drew and now Brock and like a couple other guys, like they still had like Jason Enns and like some guys that were kind of still active and like doing stuff. And then they had like a bunch of other dudes that were just kind of like they either like didn't really fit the vibe, or they kind of just weren't doing anything, like dudes that were older and like just sort of still on the team for whatever reason. So I think like that's probably one of the first things I did, was I was just kind of like, just took a look at the team, and it was just kind of like, okay, like we have to get rid of these dudes and focus more on these guys, and then focus more on adding guys like this who, I think kids would like. And so it's kind of like your job in a nutshell is to sort of like survey the landscape of BMX and sort of like see who you can kind of like get together and get in a van and sort of I guess you want like dope dudes representing your brand, and you want dudes who are going to like sell products, and dudes who kids are going to be stoked on. I think and then one of the other things I did pretty early on was add DeMarcus to
Nice.
volume, and like, so just like stuff like that. Like you want dudes who are like they need to get along with each other and everything, obviously, but like B, it's like, kids need to be stoked on them. They need to be like excellent bike riders. Like you kind of have to like have a little bit of an eye for who's gonna be successful, I guess, in BMX.
Yeah, absolutely. And right off the bat here, I think that volume really got a lot from you and Brock and Tate and everybody, because one of the first things that I think of when I think volume is back to their Brock Rayford frame, fork and bar combo that was the black and white splatter. I totally forget what it was called, but that was like one of those things that instantly, like, I can remember that.
Yeah. It was like I think that was actually I don't know if he had a signature frame at that point, but there was a volume team frame called the Bermuda, and it was actually like, I think they gave Drew Haas the splatter stuff, which I don't know. I always thought that was funny because before I was even on volume, and while I was on volume for like a year before I was filming for them, I remember always splatter painting my bikes. Like that was kind of my thing. And then I think Brian like thought that looked cool, and I always joke like, oh, you took my splatter idea and just gave it to like a couple other dudes. But like there's no like weirdness or anything. Obviously, like what's good for the brand is good, So there was the Bermuda frame, and there was like a yellow and black splatter, like a yellow jacket, I think they called it, colorway. And I remember like Drew Haas was like riding that, and I don't remember what Brock was on. I think Brock was on like a chrome frame or something, but I think he had a signature frame like pretty quick once he was on.
Yeah, the dude's unreal. So clearly, like, he's really able to hold his weight, and he definitely, deserved that frame. So good on him.
He's the shit. Yeah, he's like one of my favorite dudes.
Fuck yeah, man. So a minute ago, you had mentioned, that before you became the team manager, you would have to invoice and bill Brian for, filming and whatnot. So this is something that really isn't widely talked about, and I'm not sure if you would want to talk a little bit about it, but how does a BMX filmer actually, invoice a company?
I mean, you just kind of like decide what your thing is worth that you're selling to them. And then there's a lot of factors that I guess go into that. I think the first probably being like, who is your video of? And then the second is like, how badly does that company want that video? And then the third is like, what is your time worth? Like back when I was coming up, it was like, I'd do videos for like, I would do like random stuff. Like I would like edit videos of like, I remember editing a video of Brad Sims for like Alienation, or I would like do like random projects for like Stolen, or just like whatever it took to, do stuff, and there were definitely times where like, I'd go out for like 3 weeks and film like a Stolen edit of Sean Moore, and then like invoice them, and it would be like $200 or like just something like so shitty, but at the time it was like, oh, $200, like sick, I can eat for like a few weeks off of $200, like it was kind of like those times. I think times now are a little different, and I would hope like kids who are want to like come up as filmers, like I just hope that they like know their worth a little bit more. But there's kind of a fine line where it's like you don't want to be like $2,000 or something, because the company's not going to like take you seriously. Like you kind of have to be like somewhere workable with the price. But I mean, yeah, as far as invoicing, it's like, I don't know, I still use the same program I used when I was like a kid. It's a program called Express Invoice, and you just like type it up, like put what the product is, like one Tate Ross Kelly video, boom, like send with your dollar amount. Your dollar amount is going to change as you get older and more experienced and stuff like that. But like you don't want to be a dick, but you also want to like know your worth. I guess that's my best advice.
Yeah, it's absolutely something that I think is important for people to hear, obviously, right? Because even myself, as someone who's filmed for 8 years, I've never had to invoice anybody because I do everything and I just keep it for myself, right? And I've had people where like I've given them clips and all I've asked for is a shout out, and half the time they don't even do that. And that always kind of is like, dude, really? You can't do the basic minimum? Like, but
yeah. Oh, I'll always like whenever a company like puts something up, or like maybe not a company, like my biggest pet peeve is like when some like stupid shit on Instagram like takes something that you've done, like say like take like a headlights clip, for example, which is like a project that I put like my life into for a couple of years, and they'll like take a clip of the rider that's in the project and then they'll repost it, and with like the only reason they're reposting it is to try to like gain traction on their own like weird video page where they're just like aggregating content. Like I'll message them right away and be like, you don't own this, like take this shit down, like you have no right to like use my work for your personal gain. You know what I mean? Like that shit drives me insane. There's way too much of that going on these days.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you, man. It's something that copyright is a big thing nowadays. And I think people need to jump on that and know that, you don't have to settle for that shit. I constantly, if anybody does that to me, I send them a message right away as well. So
yeah, there's a fine line. Like if it's a BMX brand or whatever, or it's something that's like good for the industry, like fuck yeah, take it, like whatever, like whatever works, But yeah, if it's like just some dumb page that's just trying to get followers or views or likes or whatever, like I'll shut it down right away.
Yeah, exactly, man. Anyways, last summer we actually saw you move to Sunday Bikes. So, I believe are you a rider with them? There wasn't too much information. I thought that it was kind of like you're going to be repping them, right?
Yeah, it's just kind of just relaxed. Like they just kind of hook it up. Yeah, so I just kind of hit up. I've been friends with Zach Kramus for a really long time, and I know like Nuno and those dudes over there. And yeah, I haven't had a frame sponsor or anything like that since I don't know. Like I left Volume like way before that. Like they kind of announced anything about it, or I never even really said anything about it. I was just kind of like, I think once I stopped working for them, it was just kind of like this unsaid agreement, like you're not, I'm not going to ride for you either. But yeah, I mean, nothing crazy there, but yeah, with Sunday, just like, yeah, I just kind of reached out and it's just like, hey, I'm still filming, I'm still working on stuff. If you'd be down to send me a bike, I'll throw a logo on my next project. And that's kind of like where it's at right now. And I super appreciate the support that those dudes are giving me. And it's like, yeah, it's rad. So it's nice to know that if I break something or whatever, like I can hit up Kramus and get like, Sunday stuff or Odyssey stuff. And yeah, it's just nice to know you're taken care of a little bit.
Yeah, I'm actually really stoked to see that you're going to be part of Sunday. I think that that's kind of a good home for you and a good brand, like it's something that, they've been in the industry for a long time. So they kind of know what they're doing around there. And yeah, I think it's right for you, man. So good job on the move.
Yeah, dude, and their stuff is like the shit. It's like you can feel the difference between riding other frames and riding a Sunday frame. It's just like the way that like they have like the tubing and the geometry and shit. It's just like it just feels like so solid. Like not that other frames feel like flexy or whatever, but it's it is kind of like that. Like it just is a very like sturdy feeling bike, and it's just like it just feels like a quality product. So like those dudes, they know what they're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Your bike actually looks really dope. I love the fact that, it's all blacked out. It looks awesome, man.
Yeah, thanks, dude.
Yeah, anyways, let's talk about OSS. So obviously, right off the bat, you kind of got started with them in the early days. So, we talked a little bit earlier about football, but I'm going to jump into that right now. So, I think it came out in 2010. That's what you were saying, right?
Yeah, 2010, and I think we were filming for it like 2008, 2009, somewhere in there.
Yeah, so football, for anybody that doesn't know, was a video released with you alongside Adam 22. It was the first OSS full-length video, and it featured quite a few, pretty big names in there. Jake Seeley, I believe, Alex Platt, yourself, Charlie Crumlish. Yeah, so how did you guys get started on this project, and were there any other full-lengths that you had really worked on at this point?
No, yeah, that was the first one, and it was something I always wanted to do, and it, like, to be honest, like, it scared the shit out of me at the time. Because I was just like some kid with a video camera doing self-film videos and stuff, and then all of a sudden I was filming like Garrett Reeves and Craig Passero and Seeley and like all these dudes who were, in my eyes were like the next generation of pros. I mean, I guess they were, yeah, it was like super, super cool to be able to have that opportunity. And then, so I think we were all kind of filming for it, like sporadically, like where we were. Dudes like Rory Ellis and like Craig Passero and stuff, they were all kind of filming a little bit on their own. Like, I think there was like an OSS trip before the team really became a thing, where like Adam and Rory and like Keith Romanowski, the photographer, like they all went to California, and on that trip I think Rory bar spinned El Toro, which is like insane. Like, so that's probably like 2008, like early 2008, he bar spinned El Toro, which was just like insane. And so then I don't know, I kind of think once that happened, Adam realized like, oh, like I think there was like Adam filming with like his DVX, and I think he realized like, oh fuck, like this dude just bar spinned El Toro. And I don't know, so from there it's like he just sat on that footage, and I think we, for like he kind of like handpicked dudes who he thought were like sort of up and coming riders, and that's sort of how that group of people came together. But we were all sort of filming a little bit on our own, and then we all ended up moving to Texas. Like, so I remember Alex Platt and I drove down to Texas and like found a house for us to rent for like 6 months, and then we drove back, and then we all moved back down there, and visitors were like all kinds of different people staying with us. Like all the BMX food dudes came down, like with Crumlish and stuff. So that was super sick. Like I remember like Alex Magellan lived with us for a while. Just like a bunch of people came through that house, like Jared Swafford and like this kid Levi, and like I don't know, just a bunch of like young people who were like doing stuff in BMX. So like that was kind of, I think the bulk of the video, and that was in Austin. So the bulk of the video got filmed probably over like 6 or 7 months in Austin, but there was also a lot of stuff that like everybody kind of filmed on their own like before that. So that was pretty much the DVD there.
Hell yeah, man. We were just watching some of the footage there of the intro. We checked out the clip of Rory Ellis doing the bar spin down El Toro, which, 2008, that's fucking a big ask. That's wild, man. How many people had actually done something down El Toro in 2008? Not many. The list is small.
Not many. And the funny story about that too, so Rory is a little side story, but Rory Ellis is from this town in Massachusetts called Billerica. It's like just this little whatever, like a working class sort of town in Massachusetts. And then there's a skateboarder named Dave Baczynski, who is also from Billerica. Dave Baczynski kickflipped El Toro. So it's so weird that there's these two dudes that are both from the same town. One's a BMX rider, one's a skateboarder, and they both sort of did the trick equivalent down El Toro on their respective devices. And I just think that's the weirdest thing ever. Like one kick flipped it, one bar spinned it. They don't know each other, but they're from the same town. Like it's so weird.
Yeah, that's definitely pretty wild, eh? Did you actually ever film anything at El Toro? Because you were saying that Adam had filmed that bar spin.
Yeah, that was like before OSS was even a thing. No, the first time I went to El Toro was with Richie, and he like slid down it on his feet. So that was my first time there.
I totally forgot about that clip. It's awesome. We'll check that out in a minute. Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about your video part in football. So your part had so many wild clips in there, quite the variety of riding. There's a clip of you doing a tire ride down a wall rail about a minute in, and then the next clip is you doing a tire ride up a rail. And this is, you probably filmed those clips in 2009 when people really weren't doing tire rides. It was not really a common thing back then, in my eyes at least. And then also, this is kind of when we started to see your transformation into the creative mind that you are today, right? Like your riding in this video really started to flourish in a way, because there's clips of you like, wall riding the excavator, and then your last clip, your ender clip, is incredible. It's just this wild transfer from a cow statue onto another cow statue where you do a wall ride.
Yeah. I actually have the cow to cow. So one time, like Brock Rayford like got a tattoo gun and he was just fucking around with it. So I don't know if you can see it, but I have the cow to cow like literally tattooed on my hand, which is pretty funny. Like we were just fucking around with a tattoo gun one day and he was like, let's do a cow to cow tattoo. So that's what that comes from. People, it's funny when I meet girls and stuff and they're like, what the fuck is on your hand? Like, and I'll have to explain like the whole thing. Yeah, so I don't know. Yeah, but I would say, yeah, that part is definitely, yeah, because you're right. Like that's sort of the time. So I had a bunch of footage probably for that video, like probably at least like 2 or 3 minutes worth of footage for that video before we moved to Austin. And I don't think it's ever even like come out, just because when we were in Austin filming, I kind of like found this new avenue and I was like, oh, I want to do these type of things. Like I think honestly, I just probably hadn't been exposed to the spots, you know what I mean? Like being from Connecticut and like where I'm from is like country, so it's like you can film all you want, but you're not going to find like anything that cool, So I think in Austin, I was like finally finding like cooler stuff. And I was like, oh, I want my video part to be like this, So yeah, I don't know. I think all that other footage I think ended up just kind of getting thrown out, but I'm glad that I was able to sort of like find all that cool shit to do in Austin,
Yeah, definitely. It's, what I was going to say is that it's really crazy to see how your brain works, because, nowadays the spots that you come up with, no one else would see these as spots, maybe you, maybe Tate, Richie, not very many people. So, like you were saying, I guess you really hadn't been exposed to many of these spots, but can you give us a backstory on this cow to cow transfer? Like, how did you even come up with this?
So that spot is still there. Actually, it's at like an Amy's Ice Cream in Austin, Texas, like kind of like North Austin, like on either like Lamar or Guadalupe or whatever, like one of those streets up there. And I don't even remember honestly how I found it. Like I want to say I was maybe even just like there getting ice cream with like a chick or something. I don't really even remember, but I remember seeing it and like thinking it was possible, but it was also like kind of fucked. Like I looked at it like a couple of years ago because we did a headlights trip to Houston, and then Calvin and I like broke off and went to Austin for a couple of days. And I remember like I got up early one morning and went and looked at it, and I was just like, what the fuck was I thinking? Like the first cow is like the one that's laying down. It's like it's not even a bike length. Like it's like once your front wheel's on, your back wheel is just like, your front wheel is like basically coming off of the lip of it, while your back wheel is like just gotten on. So it's kind of just like a Hail Mary, like you like throw your bike in and then just like launch. So it basically is just like how fast are you willing to go at something that's like less than a bike length like that. So that was kind of the trick of it, and that took a long time. Like that spots there, that ice cream place is open like all the time. So I think we went really late on a Sunday night. Like that clip was probably filmed at like 3 a.m. So I think we probably lit the spot up around like midnight, and it probably took me like 3 hours to even get to the other one. I remember like Walter was shooting a photo, and I felt so bad that like I don't think I had really shot anything with Walter before, maybe like one other thing. So I felt so bad about like keeping this dude out till like 3 a.m. And yeah, I don't know. I think I just kept like kind of bitching into it, like just going a little faster. And then I started like hitting the other one. And then I knew like, okay, like there's that uncomfortable level of fast that you have to go where you're just sending it, you know? And I think I ended up just having to do that a few times and just eat shit a few times until it worked out. And the one that worked was super sketchy, but I had to just take it because it was just like 3 hours of like trying it, and it was 3 a.m. and I was like, yeah, okay, I'm done. Like, worked out.
It's such a sweet clip, dude. Honestly, not many people can say they've done a cow to cow transfer, so good on you for that.
Yeah, thanks, dude.
But again, such a wild transfer. I always love to see a video part kind of end off with a bang, and I think that your part definitely did with that clip. You also had some other clips towards the end that were really good as well. There's a clip of you riding this like playground equipment with this I don't even know what it would be. It's like, these logs that are kind of set up that as you walk across them, they would kind of dip up or down, and you managed to manual across this thing.
The wiggly worm. That was like another funny one too, because I tried it for so long, which it doesn't really seem like you should be trying that for that long, because really, like, at the end of the day, it looks cool, but it's literally just a manual. Like, your balance point doesn't really change too much, even though it looks like it does. So I tried that forever. I think I was just self-filming it, and then but I only had one camera, so I went to go get another angle. So I ended up doing it, went to go get another angle, and then did it first try with the second angle. So I was just like, I think there's actually a clip of me in there being like, I like throw my arms up and I'm just like, what the fuck? And the reason why I'm doing that is because I'm like, oh, it just worked again, like second time actually, like, switch the camera angle, and then it's just like, oh, it just worked again first try. So it's funny how like muscle memory works, I guess.
Yeah, exactly, man. Yeah, so what were a few of your favorite moments from those days filming football?
I think just getting to like be, like, all in all, I think just getting to like, it's just like a moment in time that when you live it, you don't really see how like important it is, I guess, like for your, like just for everybody around me, like being able to film with Garrett Reeves, like, it's like you never know when people are gonna kind of like go from BMX or whatever. So it's like that's really special to me, like getting to film that Garrett Reeves part before he kind of like, decided, BMX wasn't for him or whatever. Yeah, I don't know, like just that whole like time period was just sick. Like, I think everybody was in their prime, everybody was motivated. Getting to film with like Craig, and like Sealy is still one of my favorite riders. Like, getting to film a full part with him was super sick. Like, just, I don't know, just living in a BMX house for the first time, like going out. I think I turned 21 on that trip, so being able to go out and go to bars and like, yeah, just being at that point in your life, I think that's really what I remember from those days. Like, just being a kid and like, just living in this BMX house with all these dudes who I looked up to, and like that, I just thought that was like so cool.
Fuck yeah, man. Honestly, it's a pretty crazy video from what I saw. I watched a couple of the video parts to prepare for this. So, shout out to you guys, man. Such a great video and such a great way to end off your first full length video,
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, man. Like, I hope, like, I don't know. I don't think people really know about football, but it's like anyone. I mean, I'm 30. I'm about to be 32, but I think anybody like, probably 26 or 7 or older probably knew about football who rode back then, I guess.
Yeah, I felt so bad because you had told me to include some stuff about it, and I had never even heard of it up until today, So I was like, oh shit, like, I can't believe. Yeah.
When I first met like Boyd Hilder, he never heard of it either. I remember him being like, "Oh, that was like before." Like, he didn't know. He thought OSS was like Stevie and Began.
Oh man, that's hilarious. Well, we're on the topic of Boyd, so why don't we talk about the fact that you actually got to film with Boyd for Volume 2, and this is before Boyd really blew up. This past year, I think Boyd has really earned himself the title of that he's really gotten himself into, because he is such an unreal rider. And even back then, it wasn't that long ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, he was still unreal.
Dude, he shreds so hard. He's just, I mean, I don't know. Like back, when he was for film volume 2, I think we just called him like Australian Dennis. They look similar. I got the little blonde, like Labrador, or not Labrador, golden retriever hair,
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, like he's just like, he has like that whole crew, like, dude, like Lewis Mills, Jackman, and like that whole crew, like those dudes are seriously like the best bike riders in the world. At least, or at least like they're absolutely the best bike riders in Australia, if not the world. Those dudes are so sick. But yeah, that time Boyd was like, we actually had Lewis Mills on volume 2 at that point. I don't really know what happened with that, but yeah, Boyd came over, and like I think he was only there for like, I don't know, I want to say it was like 2 or 3 months or something like that. But I really think that the majority of that part was filmed in like 3 weeks, maybe a little bit more. I remember we just kind of would go out filming in California, and he would casually get like 2-3 clips a day. It was just kind of like, our only limitation kind of seemed like what I could take him to. Like if I had stuff to take him to, he would always get a clip there, or at least like most of the time. And then we did like a Salt Lake trip as well, as before I lived here, and like just stuff like dude, he does this like kind of towards the end of the part, there's like this spot kind of out west of here, and he does this like big old, like it's like a big giant feeble to like switch down whip. It's like this giant bank spot, like just stuff like that. Like that's what I remember from that part, where it was just stuff like, you have spots like this, but you don't have like you need a dude who can like capitalize on the spot. So there's so much stuff like that in there where you need a dude like Boyd to handle it. There's another clip in there that comes to mind. I took him to this thing that was like is like this gap off of a bank, sort of like almost like a pocket wall style type thing, but it's like a bank to gap, and then like he rides down a tree, like a wall ride on like a tree trunk to pull out. And that clip is insane too. Like that was like something that like if I did that or tried it, that would have been like an ender for me, but he just like casually like one banged it. Just like stuff like that. Like he's just such a good bike rider, and it was like, I mean, he's way better now, but even like watching that part still today, like so many things in there would be enders for pretty much anybody, at least that I ride with like on the regular.
Yeah, we're actually looking at some of the footage right now, and we're kind of building up to the feeble, like down whip kind of spot. And yeah, that dude is unreal, dude.
Yeah,
Huge.
it's just jokes. Like bike riding is just jokes for him. You know what I mean? Like he's just naturally that talented, and I think at that time he was probably only like 19 or 20. Like I mean, he's still in his prime, but he's like really in his prime in that video.
Yeah, definitely. You can tell that he's a very young Boyd Hill there.
Yeah, like the stuff he does now is like, dude, I can't even I can't even comprehend it. Like just putting yourself in those type of situations and imagining like landing that shit. It's like fucking no way. Like he's a superhuman. Him, Lewis, and Jackman they're all the best bike riders.
Yeah, definitely. I can fully agree with you there. Yeah, I'm gonna continue to let this play in the background here, and let's talk about let's see. So while we're on the topic actually of oh my god, I can't believe I'm forgetting his name. I'm so fucking sorry. Lewis. Oh my god.
Lewis Mills?
Yes, that's the guy. All right. Well, we're on the topic of Lewis Mills. He was recently in X Games Real Street 2020. So let's talk about Real Street 2017, where you and DeMarcus Paul actually had the opportunity to sit down. Not sit down, sorry. You guys had the opportunity to actually take part in this contest. So for anybody that's unaware, basically the way that this contest works is that you have 90 seconds to film, and like you have a 90-second video part that you need to film, and you got 3 to 6 months to do it. A rider is chosen, and then a filmer is chosen from that rider. So obviously, you and DeMarcus were pretty close, working through volume and whatnot at that point. But yeah, what was it like to be on, one of the best contests for filmers and riders, obviously.
Yeah, it was a trip, man. Obviously like Stu, everything he's done is pretty crazy. To even be like involved in something Stu's involved with is pretty sick. But yeah, I mean, it kind of went like that. Like he said, like, the rider, Stu kind of picks the riders, and then the riders pick the filmer that they want to work with. And at the time, DeMarcus and I had done like Finer Things. We had done like his Warhorse part, maybe a couple other projects in there. So yeah, we were like, best buds, like filmed together all the time. Though it seemed kind of natural for us to do that together. And yeah, the process there was like, it was honestly like pretty smooth. I don't really remember too much. Like too much like I mean, DeMarcus had like, he's always been like this. He's always been really good at having pretty like exact things he wants to do at exact spots. Like he'll just sit there on his phone and just lurk and watch videos and BMX and skate, rollerblade videos even, and he'll just find stuff and be like, okay, I want to do this here. And at the time, I was pretty busy doing other stuff. So I remember I would be like working a lot, and I would just kind of meet up with him for certain, be like, hey, this day, this time, we're going to get this trick. And like, he would like that manual bar that he does down the rail. I think that's in that part. I remember I was like working all day, and I was just like, cool, get off at like this time, meet you there. And like, I'm pretty sure he just like handled it. There might've been like a couple times where that might've been one of them where we had to go back to a spot a couple times, but, most of the time it was pretty smooth. Like he would just handle stuff. What else is in that part? He does this sick gap to rail ride. That's like this inhuman rail ride. It's like this middle rail, and it's like, I think skaters or someone had like cut out the first section of the rail, and it's like a gap to tires down like a center rail. And I think he ate shit like once. I think it's in the part. And then he just handled it like next try. And that was like an example of just something that we did that day. Like you were just like we were probably done by like 11 or something, like just, dude's a machine. And yeah, like just fucking cool, man. Like he's seriously like the most humble human. Like I think DeMarcus like should be like a motivational speaker or something. Like just the whole outlook on everything is so cool. And it's like, it was such a cool thing to be able to work on all those projects with him.
Yeah, definitely, man. So first of all, I feel so bad for butchering my intro on how the real street works, but obviously you guys were picked, and that's awesome. Like you guys definitely did an amazing job, and earned yourself a bronze medal, which is pretty rad in my eyes. To be recognized by some of the BMX community. It's always three legends that are voting on who takes the gold, and when you're up against people like Chad Curley and Nathan Williams, dude, you guys did an amazing job. So good for you.
Thanks. Yeah, dude, that was funny because like, you don't get to see everyone else's shit until that day. So it's like the day that they like filmed the show. So I remember they kind of like, they're setting up their set for a while, and then they like brought everybody in, and they like sit everybody down, and you watch all the parts. And I forget who else was in that year, but I remember just sitting there and watching all the parts, and I was just like, fuck, dude, like we don't have a chance. Like I remember like Alex Donaghy's was super sick. Like I remember Dave Sowerby did this like weird like thing where this like the paper was like crumbling up or something like that. I think that was that year. And I don't know, like from like an editing perspective, I feel like there were all those videos were probably better than mine, or ours. So yeah, I don't know. I'd say DeMarcus won that one for us. I don't think I had that much to do with it.
Well, one of the things that I look at when I look at these video parts, and this is, this is someone who I love this contest. This is a contest that I look forward to every year. And everybody that listens to the show knows that too, It's something that I love because it, really goes 50-50 with the filmer and editor. I think that you came into this with a really good, end product because There was minimal B-roll, which is super important when you only have 90 seconds. That's 90 seconds. That's so precious that you have to make a great impression, right? And, your slow-mo, you didn't really use too much, if any at all. I honestly can't remember if there was much. Only used when needed, obviously. And then also big, fast-paced clips from DeMarcus. That's super important when you have 90 seconds to make an impression. Slower tech clips aren't really going to do justice in that, right?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, at least in my opinion. But yeah, you guys were able to pace out the project, and it matched all the way through. And yeah, good job, man. That was a really good watch.
Yeah, thanks, dude. I think looking back at that, I definitely remember like that was probably like, so I think up until that point I had like never, I think I was spoiled all the years working at Volume. Like I had never had to use cleared music or anything. And that is a big part of that contest is you got to clear your music. And I think looking back on it, like I was too inexperienced to really understand how to like go about clearing a song. I kind of thought like, oh, you got to go on like places where bands host their music to like sell it to like, commercials or stuff like that. So I think I was kind of just like lurking through a bunch of those sites and ended up finding that song that kind of worked. But like I watched it today, like looking back on it, I was just like, fuck, this song sucks. like not something I would usually use, so I felt like it was kind of a weird song choice. I think like I had to clear all the music for Headlights too, and I think I did a much better job with that. But like, yeah, the cleared music thing was definitely like a hurdle that I think like it didn't really age well, at least with me. But yeah, all in all, I'm obviously stoked to be able to have like gotten third place and all that. But I mean, like that I like watched it today and that song, I was just like, ooh, like I don't know about this song, man.
Yeah, fair enough. That's a really good point to make, honestly. I find that music is such a big thing when you watch a video, right? Like, when I look back at some of the videos that I love so much, anytime that I hear any song from Anthem 2, all I can think about is like, certain clips in that video part, the riders and everything about it. The music is such an important part. So a little unfortunate that it didn't, age very well for you, but you still did a pretty good job. So good job, man.
Yeah, thanks, dude.
Yeah, moving on from that. So, you've also been involved in some skateboarding projects, specifically Richie Jackson's Death Skateboards part. So back in 2016, you and Richie Jackson released his new video part on Thrasher, and it was pretty much instantly beloved. When you look back on it, everybody seemed to really enjoy that part, and clearly because it has almost 11 million views at this point. So
fuck, that's crazy.
Yeah, wild, eh? Everything worked so well. It was really, the combined efforts of you and Richie, the music, the way that he dresses, your editing, the way that like, just everything about it, including obviously his mustache. Such a great video part. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how you actually met Richie, and then we'll jump into some of these clips.
Yeah. So Richie, I obviously was a huge fan of Richie's just based on like his And Now part and some other stuff that he had out. Like there was like a previous like Death skateboards part that he had, and so I was kind of a huge fan of him. Like William Spencer, this other dude, Micah Hollinger, just kind of like some just like creative skaters, because I always kind of like to like look outside BMX for inspiration or whatever, And so yeah, he was like very much on my radar. Like I think his Battle Commander had just come out, and he had just come out with like this other video that he filmed around Santa Monica mostly. So I knew that he lived in Santa Monica, and I think I was just in Santa Monica randomly, like looking for spots one day, and I found this thing in this alley that actually ended up being like right by where he lived. I mean, I wouldn't have known that at the time, but. So I think I put a photo of it, which is something was weird because it's something I wouldn't usually do, like put a photo of a spot on Instagram. And I just think I stared at this thing for so long, and it just was like pulling me in. And, but I couldn't think of anything to do on it. And so I think I sat on it for a few days, and I was just kind of like, whatever, I'll just post it. Cause that was like back when Instagram, like you didn't have to really have like serious posts. Like you could just put up a photo of a spot and be like, what do you think about this? Or just like something stupid like that. So I think I did that. And then I think I tagged him as like an afterthought. I was like, oh, like at the feature, like maybe you could think of something to do on this. And he like DM'd me and he was just like, dude, I've spent like hours looking at that thing. I still can't think of anything for it. So I was like, he like him and I had basically like looked at the same spot kind of. And then we were talking more and it kind of turned out that he had already been like watching Tate and I's videos and stuff like that. And so he I think skaters kind of do the same thing. Like he was kind of like looking outside of skateboarding for inspiration. I think he kind of found like Tate and I. So yeah, it was kind of this weird, like organic thing where we sort of like found each other through our projects. And then so from there we pretty much started hanging out, started filming. And that's kind of like, so I think I kind of entered that Thrasher part about maybe like a quarter of the way in, like a third of the way in. Like he had already had some footage, and I remember like talking with him and he was kind of like really like struggling with direction a little bit. And I think I remember like relaying to him how stoked I was on his and now part and like some of the spot builds. And like he does this like pole jam it's like a power slide pole jam board slide up a chain and like stuff like that. Like a chain jam and like just some other stuff. And I think I remember like talking to him about how sick I thought all that stuff was. And I think from there it kind of like rekindled his passion for like, you know, spot mods and stuff like that. Cause I think, I don't know, it's like, it's weird. I think we were both actually kind of struggling with direction at that point. And I think like us being friends, kind of lit a fire of like, oh, let's just do all this shit that we like really want to do, you know? So I think it was like a really like special time, I think for me and for him.
Yeah, definitely, dude. The video part's incredible. We're rewatching some of the clips here now. But yeah, if you don't mind, I've got a couple questions here about this video part. So, you know, the last clip here is incredible. The last clip is him basically doing a 50-50 stall on an orange barrier. And then he slides down a 3-story spiral staircase and rolls away once reaching the bottom. So I was going to ask if you were involved in this clip. Obviously, it's filmed with a drone, and I'm not sure if you have ever shot with a drone or maybe you had, you know, known about this clip, but what was kind of the story behind that clip, if you know?
Yeah, that one wasn't me. That was a friend of ours, this guy, Andy. And Andy had worked with Richie on, I don't know if you've ever seen like I think it's the Amazing Richie Jackson show. He did this show on YouTube for like a media company called Network A. And so Andy, I think, was kind of instrumental in shooting all that stuff. So that it was that guy who filmed that. I actually did go there with him to kind of like farm it out, like sort of just figure out what we were gonna do. Like, so I remember going there with him, like with the barrier and all that stuff. And I don't remember if we tried to film it. All I really remember about that day is that spot is so fucking sketchy to get to, A, and B, there's just so much sketchy shit going on. Like it's in the middle of a freeway. B, like there's this crazy like homeless encampment of like crackheads that live at the top. So like not like normal crackheads, like scary LA crackheads, like dudes who are just would like, you know, steal your shit. So I actually, looking back, I think I maybe took my camera out and tried to like run down the stairs fisheye or something with him, but I just don't think it was working out. And I think he was kind of still just feeling out what he wanted to do and if the trick was going to work. So I think we kind of had like an R&D sort of day on it. And I think I was probably busy or on a trip or something, and I think he ended up just going back with Andy. I definitely would have, you know, gone back and helped film it, but I think he just ended up handling it with him. So, and that is absolutely like the shot that thing needed, dude. Like the drone coming down, like that's, you know, there's one way to film it, and it's that's pretty much like exactly what needed to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no other way to film that. Like the way that they shot it with the drone was absolutely perfect. I wonder if he had done that first try. Not first try, but I wonder if that shot was first try or if maybe they had to do it a couple times to really figure out how to, you know, I guess, make it link up properly, because the shot is so good where you can see him go all the way around and you can see the stairs. Like, I think if you were a little too low with the drone, it would have ruined the shot completely.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't actually know how many tries it took. I mean, you could, it's pretty much the only option. Like, you could have gotten a massive ladder, but then you're like standing in a ladder in a freeway or like on the side of it or something, like, I don't know, but I don't know how many tries it took, but I'd imagine there's probably a bunch of other factors too. I remember that wall, like the circle, like I remember it not being like exactly perfect either. So there was probably spots that like needed some mods or like some cracks that needed filled in or something. Like, I'm pretty sure it was probably a pretty big production.
Yeah. Anyways, what were a few of your favorite moments, shooting with Richie Jackson?
I mean, shit, just that whole time period, kind of like I said, like just, us kind of going out and getting shit. Yeah, it was just cool. I think we had a really good, kind of like we just kind of like would feed off each other, in terms of just creativity and like throwing ideas around, and just, I don't know, we just spent a lot of nights just like staying up late and drinking beers and just like talking about tricks and spots, and just like, I don't know, it felt really cool at the time to like have someone to sort of like vibe with like that. So yeah, I think it helped out during the time he was filming that, I was filming, Finer Things part. And he actually helped me out, like filming quite a few clips in my part and stuff, which was cool. So I think like, working on that project with him and like seeing all the footage that I was getting of him, like, I think it inspired me to, kind of do some of the things that I was doing in the Finer Things part as well. And yeah, just kind of good. Like, it's good when you have someone else creative to be like pushing you, and you're pushing each other in like all the right directions, So that's kind of like most what I remember from that time period.
Hell yeah, man. And, while we're kind of on the topic of the Finer Things, so obviously the Finer Things was a pretty big video release, not just for you, but for kind of the BMX world in general. Like, I remember when that video came out, there was a lot of hype behind it, to the point on where you guys were making products like the seat that you guys had, with the logo and everything in there. And something that was really interesting to learn was the fact that the kaleidoscope effect that you use in that video is actually just a 50-second video that you had made with your iPhone. And, dude, that brings back so many memories for me, because with my first video, the effects that I would use in it are actually a glitched tape. There was a tape that had got really fucked up, and it was just all these crazy like glitching pixels and whatnot, and I would use that to cut in between different parts and whatnot, or like, try and move it around like that, and it worked pretty well. So same thing, 30-second like, tape glitch literally kind of formatted a video, if that makes sense.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, it's always good to have like a little bit of art direction like that, that Finer Thing stuff. It's kind of like another one where I look back on it now and I'm like, there's no fucking way I would do that now. But at the time, it kind of seemed like it was like I was probably way too into like wearing like tie-dye shirts and just like psychedelic colors and all that kind of. I feel like everybody kind of goes through that phase at one point or another. So at the time, that was it. Looking back, I kind of wish I did a little more graphically for the video, but I think it was kind of just that. And I did all the motion graphic-y like titles and stuff like that. And that was kind of the I guess it worked for the vibe of that video. Like, I definitely wouldn't do it again, but at the time it kind of seemed fitting. Just, I think I remember, so with that effect, like Raban came down, who's like one of my favorite people to this day. He was always fucking around. Like, we made this like Chef Chachi like bar volume handlebar promo that was like so funny. If you've never seen that, you should watch it. But Raban's always been way big into like dressing up in characters, and so he like, it wouldn't be weird for him to have like some fog lights or some like a smoke machine and some lights and stuff like that in his van. So I think he just had that shit one day, and he like brought it down to my apartment, and I was like, whoa, look at that. And it was like this disco light that spun 360, and I remember we just like set it up in my house. Someone had gotten me, or you know what it was, we went on this volume Arizona ghost town trip, and we stopped at like some ghost town, and they had like a little gift shop, and I remember buying this little kaleidoscope, and it was super small. It was like the size of your pinky or something, and you could put it up to like your phone, and I think that's how. So it was like this weird kaleidoscope thing. So we had this room with this Raban's like spinning disco ball thing that had all these colors, and then that plus the kaleidoscope lens on the iPhone, it just made that like, so there wasn't really too much. So I think I put like some text overlays or some title overlays on it, and then just keyed out the background or something, like keyed out the black. So it would work with titles, or it would work as its own effect. I don't even honestly remember how I did it. I think every video with like the graphics and stuff, like I'll know what I want to do, and I'll learn how to do it, and then I'll forget it like the second that the video's done.
Fair enough, man. I feel very similar. There's a DVD that I made called Space Goats, and it was my most recent full-length project, and I put 3 years into the, like editing and filming that project. Literally, I would go out and film all day and then come back and edit for hours every single day. And I did all this crazy animation stuff with it. There's literally an animated like story of these goats in space throughout the video parts. It's super
sick.
Dude, it's super interesting. You'll have to check it out. I think you would really enjoy it.
Dude, yeah, I've never seen that. Check it out.
Yeah, there's a lot of that though, where it's all keying out and whatnot, right? Like I did it as stop motion animation with PNG files. So it's literally like, a goat body and then a goat mouth, and then if you're gonna move him, you have to move him and then the mouth, and then it was
frame by frame, dude.
Frame by frame. Yeah.
Yep.
Frame by frame in Final Cut, which was like, they don't really have the best software for that. I do love Final Cut. That's all I use. So, but
that sounds rough. Are you on 10 or
I'm
7
on 10.
or?
Yeah.
Okay, I was a 7 person, and then I finally just switched to Premiere for headlights.
Nice, yeah. Anyways, let's talk about your part in the finer things. I think that this video part was pretty wild, man. There's a lot of crazy clips in there, and what I really wanted to mention here is the fact that for you as a filmer to go out and have the same intentions as a rider to film a full-length section is it's a pretty challenging thing to do. And not only that, but you're also filming and riding with people like Brock and everybody else who is in the video, obviously Tate. And for dude, it's incredible how well your video part turned out, with the fact that constantly you're filming with everybody else trying to make sure their stuff is just as great.
Yeah, thanks, man. I think that's why, if that part's good, I think that's why it's good, is because you're like, me as the filmer, I'm filming all, like I'm firsthand seeing what everyone else is getting, and I'm just like, well, fuck, like I gotta get some good stuff too, so it's sort of that like friendly, I don't even want to call it competition, but you're just so stoked at all the footage you're getting of all your friends that you want to like lay something just as good down. And I don't know, I mean, I think the beauty of volume at that time is that like everybody had something to bring to the table, and it was like entirely different than every other rider. Like we had like little D to Tate and like everything in between, like we had like Jason Enns, and we had like younger, we had like, the like, Cody Clark, like, that kid in Arizona is good. Like we had like the youngest kids, and we had like the older like legend dudes. Like no one rider on volume like even rode even similar to any of the other riders. Like even like Brock or DeMarcus, who at the time I guess could be considered more like traditional type riders, like they don't even ride anything similar to each other really. Like they're looking for different stuff. So that, to me, like that, the beauty of that whole video was just like what all those dudes brought to the table. And so I think with my part, I kind of felt like I had to bring something, even different like more different to the table to even like be able to hang with those dudes. You know, my favorite riders are like if I had to pick three favorite riders, it would be like Sealy, Drew Haas, and Tate. So two of my favorite riders are in this video that I'm making, and it's like, so I was like, well, fuck, like I need to make a section that's like, you know, even different than those two. So it was kind of hard, but like that type of shit is good. Like when something's hard, it's like it's motivating, and I think it was just super motivating to be filming with all those dudes and to just be like, yeah, I don't know, like that's kind of how I felt about it. I was just kind of like, well, like I like seeing all those dudes bring their A game. It pushed me to like, you know, want to like film my part and be stoked on everything.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And your part's incredible in this video, you know. There's quite a few awesome DIY builds that you have in here, and there's a few fans that were super interested in your DIY builds. So tell us about how you kind of go about these builds.
It really just depends on the situation, I guess. You know, there's things in there that I just straight up made, like there's like a tire ride I do over, I think it's like the first clip, like tire ride over some poles. Like that's like there's stuff like that in there that wasn't even a spot at all, and I just made it. And then there's other stuff where it was already a spot and I just kind of like tweaked it, or there was stuff in there where it wasn't a spot mod at all. Like to me, it just kind of, I don't know, like the way I look at riding is like I don't like limitations really. To me, like, so like sometimes even to this day, like with the way I ride and film now, is like I'll just go to like an area that I am stoked on, and like something about it like draws me in. Like my new part that I'm working on now is like really heavily like industrial themed. So I'll find something that's like, you know, really, that I'm like really stoked on or whatever, and it's like sometimes it exists and sometimes it doesn't, or sometimes I have an idea in my head and I kind of find a spot to build it. You know, like a lot of the things that I build are not, they're just like things that don't exist. Like they're never gonna exist. Like you're never gonna find like a roller coaster hippie jump grind. Like, you know, it's just like, it's something that like doesn't exist. So I think with that part, I just kind of like said, fuck it. Like, I don't know. I've never really been like super hardcore street dude or anything, you know, like I kind of am just like, I like video parts a lot more than I value like any sort of weird opinion of someone who's like a street purist or something like that. So for me, it's like at the end of the day, you know, like, I don't know. I feel like I'm just defending like spot building, I guess. But I mean, like it's really like riding should only, your only limitation with riding should be like what you can think of, you know, and that's kind of how I feel about it still. So with that video part, that's, yeah, just doing those spot builds. It was just kind of like, what can you think of and what can you make happen? And the other thing with building spots too is it's not really easy. Like people think it's like, oh, you want to do something, go build it, it's easy. It's like, it's fucking not easy. Like you need to find the resources to build your thing. Like you have to be at a, you know, you have to like go find a bunch of poles to steal to like make that spot happen. And you have to fill up the back of your van with like a bunch, you know, like I would be driving around at like 2-3 in the morning, like just in industrial areas, just like stealing materials to make spots and stuff like that. Like there's a whole element of what it takes to build a spot that's so much more sketchy than like anything you could ever get yourself into riding wise. So yeah, I don't know, with that, I guess that's kind of a tangent or whatever, but yeah, like there's a lot of stuff that goes into it that I don't think people really realize when they want to talk shit about like modding a spot or something like that, because it's really not that easy.
Yeah, there is definitely a lot of people who talk a lot of shit about, you know, spot building and whatnot, especially when it comes to like modifying a spot. But realistically, I kind of look at it the same way that you do, that BMX is so rad because we have so many options, you know, to ride. Like really it is just up to you and your imagination. Like with skateboarding, you know, there's a lot of restrictions. Like, yeah, you can ride grass, I guess, sometimes, but with BMX, I always look at it as like, if there's a fucking gap into a grass hill, I'm sending that shit and I'll clip it. I don't care. Like, it's BMX, man. That's what makes it so cool.
Right. Yeah, we can ride on anything, and that is definitely something that does separate us with skateboarders. And kind of speaking on the whole spot mods thing, like skaters mod pretty much everything. If you really watch a skate video closely, or if you pay attention to kind of like what you're taking in, so like if you think about stuff we can hit versus stuff they can hit, like we have so many more options presented to us. Every single rail they hit, they're bondoing the crack before it. They're putting a sign on the grass afterwards so they can roll away. There's like everything with them has to be perfect. They have these little wheels, and there's just not, there's a lot of things. Like, so your average skate van, like they're rolling with Bondo and boards and signs and duct tape and like all kinds of shit to make spots work. They're cutting rails. They're like skaters, if they want to do a gap trail, they'll just go fucking cut a rail. They want to like make a rail hop a little smaller so they can get over it or some shit. They're going to go cut the top rung out. Like, they're pretty ruthless, and I think that's just something that like we don't really do in BMX for whatever reason, probably because we can ride more stuff, I guess. But I've always just looked at it as like more of like an opportunity, right? Like, you see something and you're like, oh, I could make this a little bit better by doing this. Like, why wouldn't I take full advantage of that? This is like, we're already doing something that's really illegal, so let's just like up the ante a little bit. Let's make it let's cut the rail out and fucking make it happen.
Hell yeah. No, I totally get what you're saying, man. That's a pretty cool mentality to have, So let's talk about two of the setups here that you had built. So the last two clips in your Finer Things part are incredible. The first one where it's essentially a spinning metal pole with a pole jam before it is such a gnarly idea, for the fact that I will show you guys in a minute that, if you don't time it out right, you're going to get really fucking hurt. So let's talk about your crash. The first question that I have for you is, did you pull it the first attempt and then come back, or like, come around to try and do it a second time and time it better so that you would be like jumping over it as it spun? Or was it something that like, you tried it the first time, ate it, and then got it afterwards?
Yeah, so I think I did like two or three where, I don't remember which one I used in the video, but I think I did like two or three where the pole was like in that sort of position, like it wasn't quite what I imagined. So I kept going, and then I think I ate it on one of those, and it's pretty funny because I just fully get like fucking, it wasn't even sacked. It was like the pole like went like between my nuts and my butthole, and just like, but the way that I was being sent was like, it only touched for like a second. Like, it could have been so bad, right? Like, it could have like went into my stomach. It could have fucking like landed anywhere. Like, but I was already high enough that it just kind of like, it looks like it kind of catapulted me, but I really just touched for like a second and then I was out of it. So it looks really sketchy, but it wasn't actually that bad. Actually, with that fall, I hurt my wrist really bad. I don't think I broke it or anything, but I definitely couldn't ride for like at least 2 or 3 weeks after that. My wrist was just jacked. But yeah, so I think I ended up just taking one of the ones from previous, which is why it looks so weird. I think if I had to make that setup again, I probably would make it like PVC pipe or something, like not actual metal.
Yeah, doing metal is pretty fucking gnarly, dude. Like, definitely makes that clip way crazier,
Fun fact about that clip, there's another clip in my part that's literally the exact same spot. I just made 2 different spots at that spot. It's this clip where I do like it's like red, and it's like a pole jam, and then turn the bike sideways and do like hit the front tire, hit the back tire on 2 poles. That is the exact same spot, just filmed differently.
I actually kind of thought so. The second that you started mentioning that, instantly in my head I was like, oh, it's that red spot. That's really cool, man. That's fucking sick, actually. Yeah, so let's move on to, your last clip of the video, which is you doing a roller coaster grind to hippie hop over a chain and land back in roller coaster and come out. So obviously, you're never going to find a setup like this in the wild. There's just no way. Like, it's just such a, like, there's no way that you'll ever find something like this. So for you to go out and build it makes perfect sense. And what I love about this too is that you're so good at keeping your spots like super bright in a way. Like, I don't know if you actually go through and paint these rails and whatnot, but just the fact that the rails were the same color, the chain, and then the poles holding the chain are the same color. It looks really good on video.
Thanks, dude. Yeah. I fully like paint everything. At least at that point I did. I don't think I've done that for quite a while, but for that part, the theme was definitely like, yeah, brightly colored painted things at night, I guess. Yeah, I built that up so there's this spot up where Raban lives, up in the Central Coast in California. People like, it's called the Rec DIY. I think they have an Instagram now. But it was like, so it's like a good DIY spot or whatever now. Before it was still a DIY, but it was way more like low key. I think it just had like a little cement quarter and a couple ledges or something. So I just kind of like built it off in the corner. I don't know, like with all my builds, I try not to have it like, there's definitely a couple things I did earlier on where it was like, I would just build something in grass or dirt or something like that. But I think later, like it was way more important to me to have it be like concrete to concrete. Like to me, that just have it like, just add that element of like legitness. Like if you eat shit, you're still fucking laying on concrete. You're not laying on grass, So yeah, with that one, it was like, I think I don't even remember where. I think I actually found the two rails like in an alley in Santa Monica or something. And then, same thing with the poles, and I think it was like two poles and a chain. And yeah, I spent like 2 or 3 days, like building that spot. That wasn't like uncommon at that time. I think for a lot of those clips in that video, I would spend like a few days building the spot. But I remember that one really was like, took a lot, because those rails, like, I didn't know how many times I was going to be trying it, cause I had never done a grind to hippie. I probably will never ever do a grind to hippie jump again. So I didn't know how it was going to react. So I was like, okay, these rails have to be perfect. Like this has to be like no bullshit. Like these rails aren't going to move. So, I probably spent like at least like just between like the rails and everything, like I probably spent so much money on like concrete and like just time, like concreting all that stuff in and making sure it wasn't going to move. I think I actually like one of Raban's friends was like a welder, and I think I brought one of the rails to him to have him like weld this piece onto it so it would like stay in the ground better. Yeah, there was a lot of things with that build, and I think I spent like 2 or 3 days building it, and then that night, like when I finished, I think I ended up like going to try to film it, and I remember being so tired that I couldn't even, like, it was like I had physically put like my everything into building the spot for those days. Like I wasn't eating, I wasn't like doing anything. I was just like focused on that, and I went to go try to film it with Ruban, and I realized like, oh fuck, like I don't even have any energy. Like there's no way I could do this right now. So I had to like sit on it for a day and, like go back the next night. And luckily it actually worked out. It worked out in like, I don't know, like 15, 20 tries, like something like that. And I remember eating shit and like twisted my ankle on the, like between the rails or something. And I think that was it. So I think the one I landed, I like wanted to do it better. And then I think I ate shit, like trying it more after that, and just ended up taking that one.
Yeah, so a common theme that we see with a lot of your video parts is you filming at night, and obviously that clip is filmed at night, and it makes sense there because it's DIY. But I guess before we move to that is such an incredible clip, and to see that you actually pulled it off in 15 tries is pretty incredible, man. That honestly seems like it's going to be one of those things where you're going to be there for a few hours just trying that trick over and over and over and over again. So yeah, shout out to you, man. That's sick. But
thanks, dude.
Yeah, on the point that I was going to make there, a lot of your clips are filmed at night, and I think it works really well with the bright rails and whatnot that you were doing for DIY spots. What kind of led you into filming at night? Was it something that you guys would be out filming the team all day and it was kind of the perfect opportunity for you to go out and film afterwards? Or is it just something that you love, filming at night? You love the way that the clips look and whatnot?
Yeah, it's a combination of those two things, I guess. Like, I mean, I really just have always loved like the aesthetic of night footage and just like how, yeah, I don't know, you're not focused on anything else. Like, you're not focused on like the fucking pizza place in the background or something. Like, you're just focused on the spot. You're focused on there's less people out. And then the other thing is like, I just love the feeling of like, even to this day, like I'm like almost 32 years old and I still just love the feeling of like putting one over on someone, like getting away with shit. That's what night filming feels like. Like, you're like packing dudes in a van, generator, like going to get gas. Like, you're going on like a mission. It feels like you're going to go like steal a fucking diamond or something, like you're like hopping a fence, like throwing all your equipment over, like lighting up this spot. Like, you're just like getting away with shit. And like, that's just something that to me, like, just feels so good to do. It's like we live in this fucking society that like you're all kind of just like, everyone's like, oh, you got to be this way, you got to follow the rules, you got to whatever. And it's like, it's sort of like almost what I like doing to like counteract that. Like, I like just, it's innocent obviously, but it's like you like just like getting away with shit and whatever. So that's kind of like a big component of it for me. And it's just like, I don't know. And the other thing too is it just shows that you give a fuck, I feel like. And not just my clips, but like filming other people at night. Like, if you get kicked out of a spot or you get like just whatever, if it just shows that you give a fuck. Like, if you're willing to like not go out that night or not go hang out with your girlfriend or not whatever, like go to some industrial area in the middle of the night and light up a spot. Like, it just shows that you give a fuck about getting your stuff done. So it's just like a different thing. That's kind of like this feeling that night filming's always given me. And that's kind of why I like doing it.
Yeah, I've always personally preferred to film at night as well. I think that it's just a lot easier, in general. You're going to have a lot better luck at a spot lighting it up in the middle of the night, 3 a.m., than you are, in the middle of the day, at least most times. Maybe there's a few things that might not work out, but yeah, I've always loved night filming. There's always I always try and make time for it when I can.
Yeah, it's just super fun, man. Like, it's just something that like you'll always like remember those times where you like got away with some shit you weren't supposed to do, and that's fun to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Mike, before we move on to the rest of this, how are you doing over there? You doing good? We're close to 2 hours at this point, so.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Fuck, that's crazy. Yeah, I'm doing good. My phone battery is probably getting pretty low. I'm at like 9%. I can charge my phone while I'm doing this, but I think we're gonna lose the audio of the headphones.
Oh yeah. Okay, so let's try and speed round some of these if that's okay with you. I wrote so many questions because honestly I was so interested in chatting with you. So
yeah, no worries, man.
Yeah. So something that I found super interesting that you really got into a few years ago is van life. So, I keep telling the listeners on the show that this is my plan and I'm going to make it happen. But my girlfriend and I are planning on building a schoolie, full-size bus, and living in it for a few years. So, how did you get the idea to turn your Sprinter van into a tiny home on wheels?
Yeah, I don't know. I think at the time it was just kind of like I wanted to do headlights and all that. And also it was kind of like shit was getting a little stale at volume, I guess. I think I had kind of like outgrown the job a little bit and I wasn't really sure what to do next. And I was just kind of craving like being on the road and stuff. So it was kind of like these two ideas at one time. Like, I think I was kind of like researching, what you kind of need to do to build out your van to live in it. And then also like, wanting to be on the road and filming this video full time for a year or two. So yeah, it was kind of like those two things were sort of like just kind of came to a head, and yeah, I ended up buying a Sprinter and, building it out. And I think I just kind of used like YouTube videos, and, there was this one girl in particular that I watched her stuff, and she kind of made it seem like pretty simple and kind of broke it down into steps. And my dad has like a carpentry background, and he used to do kitchens and bathrooms in New York City, and he was, he's an older guy, but he was stoked to help out. And so yeah, we just kind of spent like a month at my house back in Connecticut, building her out, and she served me well for the duration of Headlights.
Yeah. So how long did you actually live in it?
I think it was about a year, end to end, maybe a little more. Definitely like some shit I learned from that was don't underestimate your desire for comfort. Like if you're going to do a van, or a bus in your case, like do a shower, do plumbing, like do water tanks that'll actually like be, so you don't have to fill up your shit every like 3 days, make it legit. You're going to spend more money, but you're going to be a lot more comfortable. I think my life kind of was, and it got to a point where it was just kind of like, it was cool or whatever, but it also got to a point where my life was just revolving around like where I could take a shower and where I could do laundry. So that was like a little bit limiting. So I think if I had to do it again, or if I wanted to do it again, I would, do it with more money, and B, build a rig with a little bit more, comforts of home, and feel a little less like camping.
Yeah, definitely. I think when it comes to a Sprinter van, it can get a little difficult because things are pretty tight. Obviously, you don't have the space for a shower. You don't even have the space for like a full size oven. Obviously, even when we get our bus, it's probably not going to be like that. And it's definitely something that we're kind of, we're really excited about it, but it's something that we're also like, it's going to be a big adjustment, right? Like right now we have a beautiful 2-bedroom apartment and a huge deck. Like, our entire space that we have is about the size of 3 full-size buses, side by side. So it's going to get a little tight.
Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest advice with it would just be like, my whole deal with it was like, I want to be on the road to make a BMX video, right? Like if you want to live in it full time and you don't have like a project to do or something like that, or something that's going to keep you in the city, that's way different. And if you have an income that you can live and work on the road and not have to go home, and I mean, maybe your biggest problem is like finding Wi-Fi or something, then like you're good, as long as you can make some money. Like you're not going to be paying rent. You're going to be paying, when your bus breaks down or your van breaks down or whatever, like that's stuff you have to take into account, how much money you're going to use every month on fuel, to get you to places. Like there's just so many factors with it. So yeah, like just depends on how you want to live, I guess, and what your stream of income is like.
Absolutely, man. That's I'm really stoked to hear you kind of talk about it, and I'll definitely, once we get our bus, I'll be sending you some messages just to see kind of your input, as someone who's done it before, obviously, anyways, let's talk a little bit about headlights before, we have to end this off. So I think if we do headlights and then some fan questions, that's probably a good spot to end her off. What do you think?
Yeah, sure, man. And I can always, like, if we need to take a break, like I'm on 5%. So if we need to take a break for a sec, we could do that, and I could just get up to like 20 and we could continue. But we'll just keep it rolling for a while until it dies, I guess.
Yeah. If it dies, just take 20 minutes and I'll send you a message and we'll get back into it in a few.
Okay.
Anyways, something that's always amazed me with your use of spots is, it just proves how creative you are, and your headlights part is no different, obviously. And I think that your headlights part was probably one of your most creative parts overall, with your building, your riding, and, really seeing how you'll use a spot to its full potential. So there's a few clips that I've picked out here. The roller coaster ice pick handlebar grind. That was a lot of words there. How did you stumble upon this setup? Because this is something that just doesn't seem like it could be real.
Yeah. Those, so that spot is like in this area where there's actually like a lot of other spots. I think I saw a photo of someone bar spinning. Like there's like these full pipes that are kind of on that same street. It's just this industrial area that's in LA, and I don't know if that building's abandoned or not, but there's just like this whole street with a bunch of like there's like this crazy quarter pipe sculpture that's on that street, and then there's like a full pipe as well, but I feel like it's like kind of maybe like less than a bike length wide, like it's like a tight full pipe type thing. But anyway, yeah, that spot was just like exercise bars. I don't know why they're like a mile in the sky, or what the point of, like, I don't know what exercise you do on those besides like maybe putting one hand on each one and like walking across or something. Like, I have no idea. But yeah, they're really high. Usually when you find those things, they're like low. I think they're for like stretching or something. But those ones were really high. And then so the top one was that, and then the bottom ones were actually like, I found so when I lived in my van, I was just sleeping in like Venice and Santa Monica a lot, and I would just kind of like leave my van and ride around in the alleys and look for like garbage or just anything that would spark an idea for a clip or something. And I found this, I think it was just like a futon someone was throwing out or giving away for free or something. And so the bottom, like what my back pegs are grinding on, is just like a futon frame that I took all the springs and stuff out of, and the cross sections. So I think I just cut it in half, dug it into the ground and made it like a roller coaster for the back wheels. And yeah, I think I just installed it all like one day, and then had Z and yeah, I got up early, installed it, and then just had Z and Calvin come out to film it that day. So that spot's half real, I guess. Like the bottom half I definitely added, but that was something that I thought of a really, really long time ago, like probably like Finer Things era, and I just never found the right spot to make it, and that was like the closest that was the closest thing I ever found. And I was like, okay, this is probably the spot to do it. It's got grass, like you could dig, you could make the bottom half work. So that's pretty much what that was about. And that was fucking scary. Like, even though I made the spot, like, you don't know what's going to happen. Like, like hopping into that thing, and like I feel like I made it hard on purpose, kind of, because I made it. So I was like ideally I wanted to find rails that were the same length up top as they were below. But I made it short like that, kind of just because that's what I had. And then I was like, oh, cool, I can kind of like do this, and then like roller coaster tooth out of it, like on my handlebars. So I kind of like it, like I made the spot, but I also made it harder for myself at the same time.
Yeah, dude, it is such an incredible clip, honestly. And to hear the backstory on it is pretty interesting, to kind of hear that you actually had built the bottom half of it. Because honestly, had I not heard you talk about it, I probably never would have thought that. Like, it just looks weird. It looks as if it's something that you would stand on the bottom two rails and like walk across them holding those other ones, right? Like, just like a weird balance beam thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was hoping. I was hoping people would go for it like that, I guess, But yeah, that was just like some futon I found in Santa Monica.
Anyways, we'll jump back into here. Before the break there, we were talking a little bit about, some of the spots that you were making for headlights. Sorry. Yeah, so, there's quite a few different clips in your headlights part that is all basic DIY builds that you had made for it. A few that come to mind right away are these spinning PVC pipes, like the clips that you have with that. There's one where you do a wall ride with a spinning PVC pipe, and then there's another one where you do a gap to wall, and I think you hit your peg on the top of a PVC pipe, and it spins around, and you do a 180 out of the wall. So what kind of gave you the idea to build these specific spots? Because it's so foreign and unusual. Like, it's not something that you would see in the wild, obviously.
Yeah, for sure. I think the spinning pipe gap to wall one, like that was actually something that, like, I feel like I actually did find something similar in the wild, but it just wasn't like in a spot that was conducive to like doing a wall ride or something. It was probably way too high. I think I found it in some industrial area, and I was just like, oh yeah, I could like recreate that. That one was probably like the most like R&D I had ever done. Like, I feel like all my spot builds are kind of like pretty primitive or whatever. Like, I kind of just install something and like make it work, and it's just concrete and poles and whatever else that needs to be. That one, I actually like I figured out through like R&Ding that for a while that I needed like a bearing, like a big industrial size bearing to make that work. And I had no idea where to get something like that. And I think I actually hit up like Aaron Bostrom, who does a lot of stuff for, at the time, I think he was doing a lot of stuff for like Built to Shred and some other like there was like a TV show on Fuel. And I don't know why I thought to hit him up, but he like plugged me into this place I was living in Long Beach at the time, and he plugged me into this place to get like a fat ass like industrial size bearing that would fit in like a PVC pipe, like a big like 5-inch bearing or something like that. And that's like the whole key that made that thing work. That spot was also like a permission spot too. Like I spent so much time there, like building it and figuring out how to make it work. And like I knew I could do the wall ride 180. Like that's arguably the easy part, but making the pipe spin and having the aesthetic of it spinning like in the fisheye, like after I land, I was like, that just doesn't work. Like you can't do that without like a big ass bearing. So yeah, I hit up Ostrom, went and bought some crazy bearing. And then the dudes who, that spot is like at an army, like an old like army bunker. I think they built those bunkers for like World War II to like fend off like I guess it would be like the Japanese or something. Like, I don't really know, but yeah, they were like these big bunkers with like cannons and shit. And it's like it's part of like a museum, but it's sort of off to the side. It's in San Pedro in California. And the security guard there was like this, like he kind of caught me like building it one night or whatever. And I was kind of just like, listen, dude, like I'll fucking give, I don't know if I paid him or whatever. I think I probably gave him like $50 or something. And I was just like, hey, like, we're going to come like this day, this time, whatever. And they closed that park like after sunset, to like tourists and stuff. And I somehow was able to like talk the security. I'm like, when's the next time you're working? And he was like, oh, I'll be working this day next week. And I was like, cool, this day next week, like I'll be here with like a crew of dudes to help me film this or whatever. And so he like closed the whole park, like kicked everybody else out, like all the cars and whatever. And then I had a couple friends like Josh Clemens, I think, filmed that one. So I had a couple other carloads full of people that were coming. And he fully like opened the gate, let them in, closed the gate, kicked everybody else out of the park, and just like let us have an hour or so to do that. So that was fucking sick.
Dude, that's so wild. That's the clip of you doing the gap to wall 180 out, correct?
Yeah, it was that one.
Yeah, that clip is pretty crazy, man. And I love the fact that you actually try to blend that in as if it's something that's supposed to be there. You know, you have the rocks underneath, and then you also have the like the little water spout on it and whatnot, and then the top that spins, obviously.
Yeah, I think the thing with that was like if you look close in that clip in the long lens angle, there's like some other pipes that are on the wall there that were just there, like that's part of the spot. So I was like, oh, I could just make this and it'll look kind of like it's supposed to be there. Like I know if you're smart, you probably realize like that's a build, but the pipes that were on the wall were already there, and it's like the same type of pipe that I used for my thing. So that was like the best I could kind of do to make it blend in with everything there.
No, it makes a lot of sense, man. It looks really good. I love the fact that with you and your brain and the way that you kind of go about these things, you really focus on how it's going to look the most aesthetically pleasing, basically. Like everything that you do with it always looks incredible, right? Like you would go that extra length to paint these spots just so that they look better in the clip.
Yeah, I'll try. I mean, I don't know. Like to me, that's part of the fun of it. Like the trick is, I don't know, like with a lot of the builds and stuff I do, like the trick is like a very small percentage. Like obviously that's like what you want, and sometimes it ends up being harder than you initially like think it's going to be. But I don't know. I just enjoy that whole process. It's just, to me, it just feels like an art project. Like you're kind of like for days, you're like just sitting on your porch like painting this like little spout on this pipe to like make, I don't know, I like that whole like thing. It's just like all for like, I like anything where you work really hard for like 2 seconds. Like, it shows up on camera for like 2 seconds, and it's like, if you think about it a little, it's like, oh, he did all that for like 2 seconds of video. Like, that's I like, there's something about that I like. It's like fun to like to look back on it and be like, oh yeah, I put in all that work for like 2 seconds of footage.
No, I get it, man. It makes a lot of sense, especially when it comes to the stuff that you're making, right? And it really stands out among the crowd because not many people would do that, I think. I think that, you're definitely on the top of the list with that. So good job, dude.
Thanks, dude.
So the other spinning PVC clip, I wanted to talk about that one where you do a wall ride as a PVC pipe is spinning, and you kind of have to time it so that you're landing and then coming off the wall before it hits the tires. So this one is another one of those clips that you really went all out for, in the way that like the pipe, is spinning, but then you have extra pipe that's going from the, like, along the wall essentially where it would connect. So what was kind of the build process like for that?
Kind of the same thing. I think the initial idea with that trick, like, I thought of that trick while I was like on an airplane, which is like a weird thing that always happens to me whenever I'm on planes. Cause like when you're on a plane, you are forced to like kind of just sit there and like kind of be in your brain. Every time I fly somewhere, like I always think of ideas because you're just forced to like sit in your seat and just like think about nothing and just kind of like listen to music and go to sleep. And like, so I always end up like thinking about tricks and stuff. So the initial idea for that was I wanted to do like a wall ride, sort of like, I think I envisioned it more like on a bank. So you're like doing like, so almost like tires on the way up and then hop as the pipe is spinning against you. Right. And then tires like on the way down. So like a wall ride up at 45 and a wall ride down, like hop, and then a wall ride down 45. So that was like the original idea with that clip. And then with that specific spot that I chose to like make it work at, it just wasn't really possible with like the thickness of the pipe and all that stuff. Like, there's like certain riders that are good at that, like wall ride up down stuff. Like I probably like am not really one of them, at least like with a vertical wall. So I kind of had to like settle for that one. But yeah, it was still like, it worked out. And I had Tate spinning it, and like my friend John was filming it, and Elf was there. Like, so I don't know, it was good. Like the whole Salt Lake crew was there, so it was fun.
Fuck yeah, dude. Well, we're on the topic of Salt Lake, there is so many fucking legends out there, man. You guys are unreal. There's so many great riders out of Salt Lake. Was there any reason that you kind of moved there out of anywhere else?
Yeah, I think it was a kind of a combination of like, so I mean, I'm from Connecticut. Like, I'm from a really small country town or whatever with like, trees and seasons and nature and stuff. And living in Long Beach for all those years, and even like when I was living in my van, I was mostly staying in LA to be able to film with dudes that were local for the finer thing, or sorry, for headlights and stuff. So I think once all that was kind of said and done, I always kind of knew like I would move somewhere that had like seasons and trees and greenery and stuff like that. And so and like Tate and Elf and my friend John and our friend Riley and stuff, like I had a lot of friends here and a lot of connections, and I knew I could just kind of go live at Tate's house, and like, obviously I'd have to get a real job probably, but yeah, I always kind of knew I would end up here, or at least like somewhere with a little bit more that like just kind of felt more like home, I guess, like more like back in Connecticut.
Yeah, exactly. That's great, man. I'm definitely going to try and make my way to Salt Lake at one point, because there's a lot of you guys out there that I would love to actually meet and hang out with for, a little bit. So we'll get out there at some point and visit.
Dude, fuck yeah, man. Come anytime, man. You can stay at our house. Like, Tate's got a big ass house with a bunch of empty rooms, and they don't really do anything. So yeah, you guys are welcome anytime you want.
Fuck yeah, man. I'm going to make it happen. Yeah, so going back here to headlights, there's a few different clips here that, we've already talked about, but there's a few that I still really want to, pick your brain on. So what's the story behind the opening clip where you do a wall roller coaster Smith on this green metal sculpture? This thing just seems so out of place. It's in the middle of this grass. it almost looks like, somebody's backyard in a way. Um, yeah, I noticed that there's like a paved walkway around it, but everything's kind of fenced off. Was it like a little park at one point that basically just got shut down, or yeah, what's the deal with that?
Yeah, it's basically just like, so that's in this area of Salt Lake City called Sugar House, and it's kind of like I don't know, it's a little more upscale area of the city, I guess. But yeah, that spot's just like off a bike path. Like that is a real spot that exists, and Elf actually showed me that spot, and I don't even know why he like it's funny that he showed me, like he probably knows my riding pretty good or something, because I don't know why he showed me it, but he like maybe he thought I could like drop in on it or something like that. And I was just like, oh well, this like Smith thing would work if you could get up there, and that was pretty much that one. I mean, had these little like those like boxes on the like kind of right by it, where there's like, I don't know, they're like cover. I don't know if you guys have those in Canada, but there's like a lot of like covers that are just like little green boxes that I think they use to house like electrical connections and stuff like that for like the sprinkler systems. And like yeah, so I just like used one of those as like a kicker, like propped it up with some sticks and shit, and that was able to like I was able to kind of launch off that and use that height to get up there and like just do a wall ride Smith. And I didn't honestly think it was going to work. I think I just caked the shit out of it with wax and just fell a bunch of times, but it was all grass, so it was just kind of like one of those things where you just get lucky on one, and that's kind of how that came about. But yeah, that's just a bike path. Like, so I still ride, like I'll go on road bike rides and stuff all the time, and I'll ride by that thing and I'll be like, oh yeah, like every time I see it I'll be like sick. There's other spots on that bike path too that are like equally weird, like just sculptures and just weird things that you could also probably ride. Probably the same artist is responsible for decorating that bike path. So yeah, there's a bunch of other stuff that probably still has some potential too.
Dude, that's rad. It's interesting to hear that that's actually like, there, and it's a spot. It wasn't something that you guys had went out and built. But I mean, to like go through the effort of getting those plastic covers and everything to make it work really shows how dedicated you are. So fuck yeah, dude.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Yeah, so there's another clip here that seemed really interesting to me. It's basically I box for a high pressure gas line, and the way that it opens is just so interesting. And I honestly can't tell if that was there or if you guys had built this for this. So what's the verdict? Is this a true spot somebody can go and find, or was this, a magical Mike Mastroni build?
Yes and no. I'll tell you what, I built it, but I'll give anybody that same $50 if they can tell me how it opened.
Yeah, that's super interesting, man, because the way it opens is very cool. Yeah, it's hard to kind of figure that out. I'm going to play it again here for everybody. Yeah, I honestly couldn't figure it out. I was like, I feel like he had built it, but yeah. Yeah, it's pretty wild the way that it opens.
I got that idea from actually in Long Beach. There's a lot of things like that, except they're just smaller and they're made out of metal. And it's pretty much the same thing. It's just that they're like metal boxes that cover these gas lines. And I think I was just like staring at one day, and I was like looking at it and looking at how it opened, and it had a door on the front, kind of like the way mine was, and then it had the whole back of it like just like tips up like that.
Yeah.
And I just remember thinking like, oh well, because the one I found wasn't big enough, like you couldn't ride a bike over it. It was just too like you could maybe like wally it or something, but not even close. Like just too small, like skateboard proportions, but yeah, so that I did build that one, but it is kind of weird how it opens, and I think that's part of that clip that I think is like funny.
Yeah, so my question to you, did you end up leaving that at the spot, and potentially it's still there to this day?
No, I think we just took it right then and there. What's funny about that spot too is like a lot of my spot builds, like the cops will usually come if someone calls, and because I think I painted it, like I think I built it and then I painted it at the spot, like me and Tate. I built it at Tate's house, and then like me and Tate brought it over there, and then like the cops came because I was like spray painting this thing, you know. So I think people thought I was like doing graffiti or something like that, and I had to just like spin this whole thing to the cops, like, I'm a bike rider, I'm filming this video, I built this thing, and just, you know, because like at that point that was probably like one of my more expensive builds. I think I probably spent like almost like $250 on all the material and like hinges and paint and like all the stuff. And it's like that's not like abnormal for me to just be like, all right, I'm gonna blow my whole paycheck on like one thing. So I had so much like money and time and stuff like invested in that one, and I was just like, yeah. And I managed to like, and then the cop ended up being like after I was done explaining what I was doing, he was like, oh, that's pretty cool. And like, just was like, okay, like just don't break anything, and just like fucking left. So I was like, yeah, sick.
Dude, that's actually really fucking cool that he was just totally fine with it, right? He's like, oh,
dude,
well, I mean,
like,
it's your property. Like, what is he going to tell you?
Yeah, it was like kind of weird. You know, like, I mean, you're Canadian, like you've seen Trailer Park Boys.
Oh yeah.
So my like magical power, I feel like, is like Ricky from Trailer Park Boys. Like I'll always take the cops and I'll just like send them off in some other direction. Like I have that like ability to, when it comes to like when I'm so like emotionally and monetarily invested in something, like I'll fucking say anything to like get the cops to go away, and like 9 times out of 10 it works.
That's fucking incredible. That's the like literally a skill that people die to have. So fucking that's awesome.
huge fan of Trailer Park Boys.
Yeah, man, it's a pretty great show. Definitely, you know, I love the earlier seasons. They're really great. Yeah, definitely pretty stoked that I'm from Canada.
Have you ever seen Double Decker Pliance Jump?
Oh yeah, that's puglife.com.
Oh yeah, dude,
yeah,
those dudes are the shit. Tate and I'll sit around and watch. Those dudes are like, I think they know what they're doing. Like I think they're just kind of like the dude knows what he's doing. Like he's like a genius, but he's also like so stupid. Like but like I don't know, that's a great channel. If any of the listeners need to like watch something funny, that you'll die watching all those videos.
I believe that onepuglife.com, those guys that fucking build those crazy contraptions and jump shit that are like in their 60s, I am pretty sure that those guys live about an hour from where I'm from.
Fuck yeah. See, I was gonna I meant to ask you that at the beginning of this podcast, because like the other night we were all just like on a good one, and we were just watching all those videos, and yeah, that shit was like, they're so funny. Jason Enns actually turned me on to One Pug Life like forever ago, like probably like 2014 or something.
Dude, that's so sick. Yeah, those guys are hilarious, man. Yeah, I'm like 95% sure that they're within about an hour's drive from where I live. So,
dude, you should get that dude on the podcast, man. Like a non-BMX podcast with One Pug Life. I'd fucking listen to that.
Oh, I'm definitely gonna. Yeah, I'm gonna look into that. Actually, that's a really good idea. I'm gonna try and make that happen.
Fuck yeah.
Oh man. Yeah. So let's take a look here. So what do you think was the most difficult clip for you to film during Headlights?
Like of me or of someone else?
Let's do of you, and then what was the biggest battle that you guys had filmed for Headlights of someone else?
Fuck. Well, all right. I don't know about anyone else. Trying to think, like, I don't know, probably just anything where we had to go back to the spot like a bunch of times, but that was probably a lot of things. As far as my stuff, probably like my ender, which is actually like one of the first clips I filmed. So Headlights was weird for me because I kind of like for my riding, because I think like most of my Headlights part I probably filmed like right after Finer Things. So like most of those clips were probably from like 2015, about that era. And then I kind of like, I don't want to say I like fell out of riding, but I always kind of like go in phases where I'm like really like I have a bunch of ideas and I'm motivated and I'm really stoked on filming and stuff, and then I'll kind of like have a year or so where I'm like way more stoked on filming other people and like kind of being like on that side of the lens. So I think with Headlights, like I filmed most of my part early on, and that my ender was like probably one of the first things I filmed. And I didn't, at the time, I obviously did, like, headlights wasn't even a project. Like, I just was like on that buzz of like, we just put out Finer Things, and everybody was like still filming, and we were working on like volume 1 and volume 2 and all this stuff. And I was just like super juiced on riding still and like feeling fresh. And so, but yeah, that one was like pretty hard just from like a spot build perspective. Like I that was another idea that I like thought of on an airplane. And I was just like, well, how the fuck you make this happen? Like, I was just like, it'd be so cool to do, like, I've never done a cannonball in the air, but I was like, oh, it'd be cool to like do one and slide. And then yeah, like just the logistics of like figuring out how to make that happen, and like going, you know, like full speed, like 15 miles an hour, like 20 miles an hour, and then like waxing the ground and like figuring out how to like hippie hop and like I don't know. That was probably a battle. I think like just setting up that spot, it probably took like an hour to set the spot up, and I would like set it up and tear it down and figure it out and like figure out the slide. And like, I mean, it was probably like 5 or 6 trips back to that, like before the clip happened. And then I think I went back again after I got the clip to shoot the photo with Devin. And so yeah, it was probably like at least 5 trips to do that, and it was just a parking lot, like so just yeah, that was probably the biggest like battle, trying to figure out how to make it work. And I think that's probably why I use it as an ender, because I was just like, oh, this is the hardest thing, so that's the ender, I guess.
It is actually one of those things where I'm like, dude, that thing had to be so fucking difficult to set up and do, just because you really do have to sit there and wax the ground and make it work. And then to go back afterwards and shoot the photo is incredible. Like, that's such a commitment, man. Like, good on you.
Thanks, dude. Yeah, that was definitely a weird one for sure. Clemens fucking nailed the filming. That was like another one too, where it's like, I don't, you know, I understand that most people who film in BMX don't really like know how to skate. So like having to like give Josh is a great filmer. He's one of the best in my opinion, but yeah, like kind of just, being like, all right, I need you to fucking haul ass on this skateboard with me and like film this. Like he nailed it. Like he did just as much of the work, I feel like, for 3-4 hours, like trying to film that.
Yeah, my biggest advice to anybody out there that wants to get into filming is to get a good cruiser board, nice big wide board, big wheels on it, some great bearings, and go and push that thing around the city for, days, and really figure out how to fucking skate. Because when you're going to be holding your expensive camera equipment, the last thing you want to do is, end up hitting a fucking rock and going over and, destroying it. There's a video that I seen. I can't find it. I was going to try and find it for this and send it to you. You might have seen it, but it's this skater who's filming somebody roller style, and his wheel ends up going over kind of like a drop, and his truck hits and he goes forward, and here he is with his HVX with the Century lens, big whale eye, and fucking right to the concrete the lens goes. And like, that was a very, very, very very sad way to end that lens's life, because there's no way. Dude. Yeah.
Yep, that's $3,000 down the toilet right there. Now they're even more. My friend, I don't know if it's because of like COVID or whatever, but this kid I know from Texas like texted me the other day, and he's just like, hey, you ever think about like cashing out on your Extreme lens? And I was like, nah, I still film all the time. Like, I thought he was like trying to ask me to buy it or something. And he was just like, no. And he sent me a link to one on like eBay or something that was used, that was going for like $5 or $6 grand. And I was just like, what the fuck? Like, I was just like, that's not even worth, like, maybe they don't make it or they stopped making it because of COVID or something. I have no idea. But I mean, the fact that I have one, I'm like, oh fuck, like, I guess maybe this is still worth what I bought it for. I have no idea.
That's one piece of camera equipment that I feel will never deplete in value, because that lens is so sought after. My idea when I bought my HVX was to get that lens, and guess what? I've had that camera for 5 years now. Do I have that lens? No, because I cannot justify it at this point. Like, I would love to have it, but fuck, man, it's so expensive. It's a beautiful like piece of art, dude. That lens is like any camera dude would nerd out over that.
Yeah, it's a big old piece of glass for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I'm gonna pull up a photo here.
I got it right here. Fucking the whale, dude.
Oh my god, that thing's wild, eh?
Yeah.
And that would be the not the HMC, the HPX, right?
Yep, that's the HPX.
Yeah. How do you like that setup? Is it it doesn't use P2, it uses SD, right?
Nope, it uses P2.
Oh.
So yeah, so the HPX and then the HVX both use the P2 card system.
Nice. So, P2 cards, for anybody that is unaware, is kind of a Panasonic only format for, only a few of their cameras. P2 cards were very expensive and still to this day are very expensive. A 64 gig P2 card, I found one for $200 US, and I think that was the cheapest that I've found. They get pretty up there. What are you rocking for P2 card size? Do you have all 64s in there or what?
No, I think I just have I have like a 32, a 16, and then two 8 gigs. So I think I just rock it like the 32 in one camera, the 16 in another camera, and then like both the 8 gigs underneath those two. It's not too much, honestly. Like I think I get like 30 minutes of footy, or like maybe like 40 at the best or 48 or something if I put the 16 and the 32 in one camera. I've never been like a gear guy. I kind of wish I was a gear guy because I think it would make life a lot easier, but I've always just kind of stuck to like what I have. Like I've never bought a camera brand new ever. Like I've just buy all my stuff on eBay, like used, or like P2 cards. Like when you live in LA, like it's pretty easy to buy P2 cards on Craigslist for like $100 or something, or like, I guess now it would be like OfferUp or, any of those type of apps, but you can find them like pretty cheap. If you live elsewhere, it's obviously harder because you have to like deal with eBay or something. But I don't know. I've always just bought used equipment, and like both my Panasonics have issues. They have like focus issues, and the zoom on one of my cameras doesn't work anymore. And I think it's probably about time for an upgrade. But I don't know. Like I kind of am more of the mentality of like, if it isn't broken, don't fix it. Just kind of use what you got.
Now, what I'm wondering about is, you've spent a decent chunk of change getting that Century lens. Is there any chance that you can use that lens on an upgraded camera, like maybe a newer, not 4K or anything, but like a newer Panasonic model camera?
Yeah. So if I were to like logically, I think, and probably my next step, like I'm working on a project now that I'm pretty much wrapped with. I think like in the spring, I might just get myself like a nice AC160, Panasonic AC160. And really the only difference between the HPX and the AC160 is that the AC160 can shoot 1080 60p instead of so all my stuff, like I've always, if I know that I'm gonna maybe potentially want to slow-mo it, I will shoot 720/60. I think like most of the finer things I probably shot 720/60 for virtually everything. But now I'm a little bit more like, I'll shoot, these cameras that I have can shoot 1080/30 but not 1080/60, and I know I'm going to export in 30, so I will shoot 1080/30 for lead-ins, or really just anything that I don't think is going to warrant a slow-mo. If it's something fisheye and crunchy and you're all up in the club with the angle, and it's something that's gonna, there's like an intricacy of the clip that's gonna be, you're gonna want to slow-mo, I'll always make sure to shoot 60.
Nice. That's awesome, man. It's interesting to hear kind of your background when it comes to slow-mo, right? Like for me, I've always kind of looked at slow-mo as, it has to be done the right way, because, and I honestly blame it on the iPhone, because everybody has slow-mo now, right? And everybody uses it constantly, but nobody knows how to use it right. And even for me, I'm like, my favorite thing with slow-mo is, instead of trying to slow it right down to like, half speed or whatever, or I'll try and set the playback at like 85% instead of 100, so that it just slows down the tiniest little bit on a certain thing. Like in Space Goats, there's a clip of my buddy Jesse doing a big 360 down I think it's like a flat six block stair set. It's huge. And in the 3, he fucking, it's so nice. And I just wanted the tiniest little bit of slow-mo so that it would register in your brain just how stylish the 3 was, but not register as slow-mo. So like right as he starts to come off, I cut the clip, set it to 85% playback, and then right when he's like at a certain point, it kind of slowly speeds up again. And it honestly, if you're not into editing and you don't really know, it's just enough slow-mo where your brain will kind of register it, but you won't really notice it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you'll be like, something happened, but I'm not really sure. And like you said, most people might not even be conscious of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I feel you on the iPhone slow-mo. Like there's definitely, like every time somebody hands me their iPhone to film an Instagram clip, they're like, oh, film it in slow-mo. And I'm just like, fucking, like, you know what I mean? Like there's like that little part of you as a filmer that's just like, you're not doing this right. Like you're just taking like the cheap, easy way out of this. You know what I mean? Like, so yeah, I feel you on that. I mean, dude, I've made entire videos with no slow-mo, like football, literally not one slow-mo. And I remember when that video came out, like people were like accusing me of like speeding up clips and stuff. Like there was like that back when the come up, like people would leave like shit talky comments and stuff. Like there were people that accused me of like speeding up clips in my part or something like that. And I was just like, no, that's just how fast like stuff was going on. Like there was no slow-mo. So maybe you felt like that. Like,
yeah,
Yeah,
it's interesting when people get into kind of that like thing, right, where they will complain about certain things within your video, but I always feel like it's your piece of art, man. You do what you want to do with it, right? Like, yeah, other people are going to enjoy it, but there's going to be people that hate it. Like, I put 3 years of my life into Space Goats. I'm sure there's people that watch it and fucking hate it. So, and that's okay. That's just all part of it, right?
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to please everybody, and it's like, if you and your crew and everyone is involved in your video or stoked on it, I mean, that's all that matters. Like videos at the end of the day are like, all you can really hope is that like later on in your life, you look back at your thing and you're like, oh, fucking like, fuck yeah, we did something there. I remember that time in my life. That was fun. That's what you want, really. Like everything else is just kind of like icing on the cake,
Yeah, exactly, man. I completely get that. And that's kind of why we started doing video projects around here, at least, was just because like we want something that we can look back on in 20 years and be like, holy shit, I can't believe that we used to do this stuff, Yeah,
it's the same reason why like rock climbers will go climb some dumb mountain that's like it's forever and it took them like 3 days to get to the top or something. It's not really because they're enjoying every second of that. It's because they want to like be like, fuck yeah, we did that.
Yeah, exactly. That's a really good way to put it, actually. Cool. So why don't we wrap up everything with headlights and we will move on from there. So is there anything that you wanted to add about headlights? Obviously, quite a big project with Ride BMX, and obviously really sad to see Ride kind of quote unquote die, but then obviously the birth of our BMX is pretty great. I guess,
Definitely.
we didn't really get to talk too much about other people's parts. So I think one of the parts that was super crazy that a lot of people really enjoyed was obviously Tate's part. He put a lot into that. What's it like filming with Tate?
Dude, filming with Tate is a trip, and it's like, because he's one of my best friends, and he's probably like the person I probably see the most, like if I'm going riding or whatever. It's filming with Tate is really interesting because he's like say there's like a few of us out riding or something, like Tate will be like, we'll be at a spot that one of us wants to ride or something, and Tate will be like off in the corner, like just fucking around with something on flat ground or something. And like, it's so interesting to see him take like an idea, like I don't want to give away too much because we have this new part coming out in a couple weeks, but like take like the idea of like, for instance, like just playing with like a piece of PVC pipe on flat ground and like the way it works with like his mag wheel. And it's like, there's always kind of like some stages with Tate where it's like he has like the fuck around stage or like something where he has an idea and he'll start fucking around with it. And then there's like then he'll usually be like, oh, could you film this with my phone or something? And then pretty quickly, like with him trying it, we'll be like, okay, this is an Instagram clip, or this is like, if we film it better and like find a better spot or something, this is like a real clip. And a lot of the times, like it's a little bit hard to like decipher between those two, especially for a rider like Tate. Like for a rider like who's really like a Nathan or a Dak or something, it's probably pretty easy for them to like discern like, okay, this is an Instagram clip and this, I'm gonna take this trick and do it better on a real spot. But for someone like Tate, it's everything is so like idea based, that it's a little bit hard sometimes to like decipher what's gonna do good on Insta and what we should maybe probably save for like the real project, you know. But I think Tate and I work really well together because Tate is like really idea based, and I think I'm a little bit more like spot oriented. So I think between the two of us, and obviously I'm like more filmer oriented and stuff than he is. So I can like take his thing that he's got this like idea that, you know, and maybe I'll be like, oh, well, there's this bank or there's this other spot we could go look at that might like, you know, so kind of like the spot and the idea, like us kind of like working together on those two things, that we usually kind of combine those to make like the clip happen, you know. And that's kind of what it's like filming with Tate. It usually is like a session or two of like playing around with the idea, and then we'll kind of like between the two of us, we'll figure out like what the right way to portray it is, and maybe like what the right spot would be for it.
Dude, it's so cool to hear that, you know. And one of the things about Tate is that a lot of the stuff that he wants to do is you know, it's almost luck. Like, you know, the last clip that he has in Headlights is it's wild, man. And I just wonder how long that fucking took to film, because it's one of those things where, you know, when I talked to Tate, he was saying that it's not even one of those things that like it, you know, obviously it requires a mass amount of skill and knowing what he's doing, but it's more luck than anything. Like, you know, if your wheel doesn't fall off in the right way and then bounce over this thing, it's just not going to happen. It's not going to work, right?
Right.
So for you as a filmer, I think that the fact that you are such a creative rider and that you can kind of see what he does, and, you know, you guys really are able to work off of each other really well, really plays into how great his video parts come out, right? Because I know a lot of filmers would not be down to sit there for 5 hours and just watch this dude bounce his wheel off over a thing, right? Like,
yeah, that's the thing, man. You just got to be down to sit there. Like, that's, you know, nothing good ever came in 2 seconds. Like if it comes in 2 seconds, it's not good, you know. But yeah, that clip in particular, I think I had not already finished his part, but I was working on editing the video. Like I was to the point where I was just spending, you know, 10, 12 hours a day, just probably sitting in this room, like just editing the video. And I don't remember what the clip before that was, his ender. It's probably something super sick too, but, that was like I call it an afterburner. Like there's an ender, right? And then there's the afterburner, like the after plaque. And so he kind of had like one last Hail Mary idea, and it was that. And he was just kind of like, well, what do you think about like getting out of the editing dungeon for a little while and going to film this? And I was just like, yeah, whatever, fuck it. Like, you think you can do it? Like, cool, you know. And I don't even think it took like more than an hour, two, maybe like 2.5 hours, like something like that. It really wasn't terribly long, surprisingly. And a lot of other clips in that part too that you would think would take forever, like the two that people ask me about the most are the tennis ball and the wheel clip, and then the mini golf ball in the hole clip. Like the mini golf ball in the hole clip was like 10 tries. Like it really wasn't that crazy. Like 10, 15 tries. Because it was just the way that spot was. It's just like that's what was going to happen. Like the ball was going to go in the hole, like sooner or later. You know, it could take 2 tries or it could take 200. Like, you know. And then the ball in the wall clip was like Brady Tweedy was like filming something at that same spot, and Tate was like off once again, like off in the corner, like just fucking around with something. And yeah, that one was like not even 20 minutes. Like so, and the golf ball clip and that tennis ball clip were the same day.
oh
So
my
like,
God.
just like yeah, shit like that with Tate, where it's like, you know, like you have those days, right, where everything works out, but then you have the days where you sit there for 5 hours or even like multiple sessions too. So you just have to be down. Like that's really what it is. And it's like oh shit. Keep like knocking this over with my headphones. Yeah, like you just have to be down to like, I understand his vision and where he comes from and stuff. And it's like, I want to do everything I can to, which is arguably not much. Like, I mean, if he's putting all this like creative energy into making this clip happen and stuff. And it's like, the least I can do, I feel like, is just sit there with the camera. Like he's doing all the work. I'm just filming it.
So what video part is it where you are going in front of him through a tunnel as he does like a forward slider? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, that was that's here. That's in the Finer Things. That's in Salt Lake. That's funny. I actually like was hanging out with this girl way after the fact, like maybe like last year or something, who lived in that as an apartment complex, and she lived in that apartment complex, and I was like, I think it was like I went over to her house and I was just tripping out, and I was trying to explain to her like, oh, this is the apartment complex with the tunnel. Like, is the tunnel still here? And I like made her go downstairs and like look at the tunnel, and I was like, this is so cool. Like I haven't been here in like 3 years. Like, but yeah, that was definitely like that was one where I think like both of us, like, I think I did actually film it long lens like after the fact, but I knew at that point, like, oh, this needs to be filmed like in the tunnel fisheye, and the only way to do it is like camera straight backwards, So that was just like blind. Like I was just like skating forwards over a bunch of wax also, like, because he had waxed the whole tunnel. So I'm like skating on wax and then just pointing the camera behind me and just like hoping I got it, and it worked out.
Dude, it's so crazy to watch that clip, just to see kind of how much you had to go through just to get it, But the fisheye through the tunnel, obviously, the shot, it looks so good. And I love the fact that you do cut to the long lens, because I think it shows kind of just how far he really goes and whatnot. So, yeah, again, man, your creative mind is rad.
Thanks, dude. Yeah, that's like his trick, man. Like no one else does that trick. Like he owns the gutter ball for sure.
Fuck yeah. Anyways, we're getting close to probably 3 hours now, so I'm going to jump into the fan questions if that's okay.
Cool. Yeah, let's do it, man.
First of all, I just want to say a huge thank you for taking the time to do this, because this has been incredible, and we have only done about half the questions that I have on here, so we'll get you on again in the future for sure.
Yeah, well, my phone just said 10% battery, so let's rifle through these fuckers.
Absolutely. Alrighty. So, first of all, let's do 5 quick things from Riley Rue Smith.
Fucking Riley.
Yeah,
I live with Riley, so
fuck yeah.
I'm gonna answer these very sarcastically.
Favorite long lens filmer, fave fisheye, best editor, best storyteller, and MVP.
Best fisheye filmer and best long lens filmer, I'm gonna say Buster and Hunter O'Shea, the combination of those two. If you're not familiar, they're responsible for the Happy Medium videos out of Arizona. It's like a skate video series. Those dudes changed, probably mostly Buster, changed my entire outlook on filming. When I saw Happy Medium 2, I realized like just how much could be done with filming, and like the way you can film to sort of like convey like emotion with your filming.
Yep.
And I learned, I mean, Happy Medium 2, 3, 4, 5, all those videos are just like tremendously good. So I'm gonna say just filmers in general, those guys. Huge fan of John Miner, who's responsible for all the America stuff, and in the later years of America, my buddy Tim Cicilline is the TM and filmer of America. So he's kind of done a good job of carrying the torch with everything they do. So John Miner, Tim, in BMX, Tony at Fiend fucking kills it. Maloof, great fisheye filmer. Calvin, great filmer all around. Like, I think if every filmer in BMX had like the vision that Calvin has, I think BMX media landscape would be just a lot better. I think Calvin does an extraordinary job. As for Riley's other question, what were his other questions?
So, best editor, best storyteller, and MVP.
Best editor, just all those filmers I mentioned are pretty much great editors. Calvin, Buster Hunter, Maloof, fucking
Fuck yeah.
John Miner, all those dudes. Like anybody who really like Greg Hunt. Greg Hunter is responsible for pretty much all the Van Skate projects, as well as like Ryan Lovell, couple other dudes who film for Vans are all great. Those are the best editors for sure. I feel like I'm probably missing, I don't know, lately I've been really stoked on all the weekend skateboard stuff. This dude Grant Yacerda does all this stuff, everything like Tom Karangolov puts out, like that dude films so good. Like
fuck yeah.
Grant, like Tom's a skater, but everything like Tom puts out, like whoever films him is the shit. All the New Balance stuff, like Russell Houghton, those dudes are all great. And then best storyteller. I don't really know what he means by that. As far as, I don't know if he means like with filming or whatever, but
dude, yeah, sorry to interrupt. After the story that Chester Blacksmith gave us last week, that award goes to Chester Blacksmith for me. But
we'll give it to Chester Blacksmith, dude. I don't know, because I don't really know what Riley means by that question, but I'll have to listen to the Chester episode.
Yeah, man, it's the very end. It's like the last 10 minutes of it. It's wild. Also, if your phone's running low on battery, you can just pop the headphones out and you can charge it if that works, because we got a couple more here and I just want to make sure we get through them all.
Okay, yeah, we'll get to them. We'll just rifle through them.
Cool. Alrighty. So last one from Riley. How does it feel being Tate's hot dog dad?
Tate's hot dog dad. I don't know what that means, but I don't know. I think if anybody's grilling hot dogs around here, it's Tate. Tate makes a killer brat. So I'm gonna say Tate is the hot dog dad for the house.
Fuck yeah. There you go. Harvester Bikes, favorite early 2000s BMX DVD or video?
I think everyone's favorite video is kind of, relative to just what inspired them at the time. So, I mean, for me, it's the three I mentioned earlier. It'd probably be like Road Rules 2, Criminal Mischief, and Forward. Those three videos like shaped my like BMX video upbringing, and then like CKY and stuff as well.
Hell yeah, man. Another one from the listeners here. Would you give front brakes or flatland a try?
Ooh. Well, flatland, probably no. I think every once in a blue moon I can get like a hang 5 whiplash. And I usually get it usually takes me 100 tries to land one, and it's the most frustrating thing ever. And that's probably that's their bunny hop bar spin, so probably no on the flatland. It's just too tedious and frustrating. And for dudes who do flatland, like, my 100% respect goes out to you, because that's a special breed of human to get good at flatland. And then front brakes, I don't know. Like, I think when skaters do like a nose stall to like board grab to pull over on a rail, like, that looks cool to me. But then I think about like the BMX equivalent of that, and you're like chirp, squeak, like up on a thing and then hop over, like, that just doesn't look very cool to me. So I'm gonna say no on the front brakes. Like, I mean, certain people have done it cool, like fucking Dirt Ron, or like that one dude from the Midwest who rides for Colony. Like, he's a dope front brake dude. I forget his name. But he's super sick. Like, there's definitely been some sick front brake dudes, but all in all, I don't think it's really for me. But who knows? As
a front brake rider, I am very offended. No, I'm just fucking with you. Moving on, Dead Leisure. What is your philosophy on creativity, and how does it inform your creative process?
He would ask a fucking loaded question like this. Dead Leisure is sick, by the way. If anybody who doesn't know, they're a sick clothing brand out of Australia. They hooked me up, and Dead Leisure's awesome. I wish more brands in BMX would be like Dead Leisure.
Before you continue, I actually took a look through their stuff, and it looks awesome. So I'm gonna drop a link in the description and everything. Go check them out, guys, because these guys are rad.
Absolutely support those dudes. They support Calvin, and anyone who supports Calvin, I am down with. But fuck, I don't know. I would say, read the question one more time? I'm fading.
What's your philosophy on creativity, and how does it inform your creative process?
I think creativity is kind of a weird thing. I think, like, when you think of the word creativity, I think, a lot of other words come to your brain, like, like artistic ability and like stuff like that. And I think that it's all kind of relative to like how much work you put in. That's kind of what I think about with creativity. Like there's people like who are really good artists, maybe they're painters or maybe they're graphic designers or like something like that. But it's all, I think it's just all a matter of like time. Like I think I truly think that anybody can be creative. It's just like how much hours are you willing to like throw into being, making your thing that you want to make, I guess. So I don't know, if you want to be a good painter or something, like you could suck shit for like 10 years and then maybe you make like one thing that you're stoked on and maybe people like really like that thing, but people don't see like the 10 years of like struggle that you put into it. Right. So I think that like, I don't know, my theory about creativity is just like, you just have to be down to put in the time. Like the same way you have to be down to put in the time to film Tate, like bounce a ball into his wheel for like 5 hours, like you just have to be like, you can't like give up, I guess. I guess that would be my theory about it. I don't know if that really answers the question, but that's kind of my theory. I think everybody can be creative. I don't think like anyone's more special than anybody else. I just think like, it just is more about like how much time are you willing to put in to make your thing come to fruition.
Absolutely, man. That's such a great answer for that, honestly. So, Mike, thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. One last question for you. As someone who is well known in the BMX industry for filmmaking as well as BMX in general, what's your advice to people out there who want to get their work noticed and follow in your footsteps?
So I would say like the best thing, and this is kind of something I learned early on from like getting a job at Volume or even like getting sponsored in the first place, is like whatever it is that you want to do, be already doing that at like almost full capacity already. Like if you want to be a team manager for a company, like get a van, have dudes in your van, be out filming as much as you can, have projects out already. If you want to be a pro rider, have legit parts out already, like do something where like you're standing out and you're like, you're already like showing whatever brand or whatever that you want to work for that you're capable of doing this, like without them, like that would probably be my best advice. Like you want to show that you're already there and now you just want to like, partner with them to like better your skills. We kind of live in a different age now where you can kind of like you can get noticed on social media and stuff. Like when I was coming up and stuff, it was pretty much like you had to make videos and you had to like do whatever, on your own terms. But I feel like even with like Instagram or however you are getting your name out there, like that still applies. Like, like be out riding all the time. If you want to be a pro rider, like be making videos. If you want to be a filmer or a team manager or something, like, get a van, be out filming all the time, like have dudes in your van who are legit riders, like film your friends or whatever, but also film, be focused on filming with people who are like up and coming and people who are sponsored, and, hang out with photographers, hang out with people in the industry, like try to just make every connection you can to like be like, put yourself in a position where you're like at the forefront of what's happening. I think that would be like my best advice if you want to like, be a filmer in BMX or be a rider and get sponsored.
Absolutely. And I love that you included the fact that you have to have your own work already out there, and then you can start pursuing this stuff because, realistically, if you don't have work to show, what are you really worth, right? People got to know that you already are willing to put in the time and the effort to do something for you, and that you want to do something for them too as well, right? Like, I
Yeah,
think,
it's like no band in history ever got signed with like, oh yeah, like they're really good, and it's
yeah,
like, oh, they're really good. Like, what have they done? Like, show me something they've done. Like, why would we want to throw money at them? So it's like you have to already have something to show for what you're into.
hell yeah, man, exactly. I fully agree with you. Yeah, Mike, this has been incredible. So thank you so much for hanging out with us for quite a while tonight. This has been a really great episode. So for everybody listening at home, basically, we started this at 8:30 my time tonight. It is now 1 a.m. my time. We've just had a great night. So this is rad. Thank you so much, man.
That's crazy, dude. Yeah, thanks for having me. And yeah, fucking yeah, for anyone who made it this whole 3 hours, man, or whatever it is, thank you. And yeah, keep listening to this show. This is sick. This dude doing this podcast is super sick. Sick for BMX, and yeah, like hope more people tune in and you gain some traction on your channel, man. This is awesome.
Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate those kind words. Yeah, man, this has been awesome. Do you want to promote anything? What you got going on in the next few weeks, few months? I know you were talking about a new video part.
Yeah, I got a new part coming out. I don't know when. I'll probably drop it sometime in like February or something. But yeah, working on a new part, and then also working on a new part with Tate for GT, and that is going to be coming out end of January, early February, and that is a mind melter. There is nothing in that part that is not like a what the fuck clip. We've been filming for that for 2 years, and it's yeah, that's going to be sure to turn some heads. Like Tate is a fucking genius. So yeah, got that Tate part coming out. Got my part coming out. Just like to shout out Sunday, shout out Dead Leisure for all their support, helping me out with clothes and bikes and all that stuff. And yeah, looking forward to 2021. Hopefully a little less hectic than 2020. Looking forward to filming more projects and staying riding as much as I can.
Fuck yeah, man. Thank you guys for joining us, and we will see you in the next one. Peace.
All right. Peace out, guys.